A warrior arrives at a familiar establishment, this bell announcing his entrance. Inside, the bar is filled with patrons, his armored hand resting on his blade. This bartender greets him as Old Kaio, who recounts a simple raid with some rookies, then asks if the broadcast is starting, and all eyes turn to the massive screen. A live feed begins from a grand hall, where a council has just finished voting, passing a motion to strip a hero of his power. As president, He Yao lists the crimes of a man called Mask, accusing him of treason and sabotage. This sentence is delivered to the accused, the death penalty, but for his past service a deal is offered. He will be stripped of his titles but keep the name hero, and the entire bar watches the verdict unfold. One patron passionately defends Mask's legacy, but another argues the victory belonged to all heroes, sparking a heated debate about the past. With accusations that Mask is paranoid and dangerous, believing he is either mad or power-hungry, on screen He Yao offers a final hollow promise. As Mask listens, his face now concealed, his gaze cold and unyielding. A lone man sits at a podium under a spotlight. As our hero's eyes snap open with cold resolve, he is facing a silent, judging assembly, and he remembers his own death, a fatal betrayal. This is the very place his companions turned on him. This moment his life went wrong. A system prompt appears, his main quest completed, placing him once again at a historical crossroads, but this time he chooses the monster's path, as his rival accuses him of being a poor leader, calling him a relic who stands in the way of progress, and declares this trial is meant to exile him completely, turning him into a powerless monument. This assembly smirks, trapping him with their words, and a tense silence falls over the hall. This blonde rival seems confident in his victory. While elsewhere people mock the hero on the news, demanding he pay for his supposed crimes, but then the hero makes a shocking announcement, leaving the public completely stunned as the rival slams his hand on the podium, unable to believe what he just heard. While our boy calmly repeats his words, he is giving up his title, and the rival accuses him of defying the parliament's will. But the hero simply walks away, questioning everything. This official demands to know why he will not just be a silent hero. He yells for Mask not to leave, but our boy is unfazed. Watching him walk away, the official makes a declaration. If he is no longer a hero, he must give up his strength. In the audience, two men discuss the official's intent. This spiky-haired man realizes he wants to abolish Mask's power, while others try to recall Mask's official hero rank. A scarred warrior explains he is rank 13, far above everyone else, and that no one else will ever reach that realm of power. This official continues his speech, claiming Mask's power belongs to the people, slamming his fist down and demanding he give it all up. Mask turns, a blue aura flaring as he considers the demand, leaving the official sweating and speechless, while other council members look on in terror and the audience watches in stunned silence. Mask raises a hand, forming an orb of energy, and agrees to give it up, causing an official to recoil in pure shock. As the energy in his hand grows to an immense size, and he unleashes a devastating wave of power throughout the hall, a man collapses under the pressure, begging for help, and even the blonde official struggles to stand, amazed at the strength, fighting the overwhelming impulse to kneel before him. Mask stares back coldly, ready to give them exactly what they asked for, as a massive beam of energy erupts from the building's roof. And onlookers below can only stare at the mysterious phenomenon. A new king-class monster is announced, as a massive energy blast erupts, leaving chaos and destruction behind. This blonde antagonist survived the encounter and realizes his foe is now just a normal human, believing there is nothing left to fear. Meanwhile, the masked fighter stands in the ruins. His face hidden from view, he removes the mask, letting it fall. This blonde man issues a final warning. Suddenly, a red gateway appears, leading to the mother spider hatching nest. Elsewhere inside a frozen cave, a team of hunters assembles for a raid. Their leader explains the mission is an easy one, mocking the idea of being afraid of spiders. This team members are eager to earn some cash, though they regret missing the masked fighter's trial. A teammate points out the trial made this raid possible, but the captain cuts the chatter short. He orders them to move out and clear the dungeon. Just as they enter, the portal behind them activates, and they turn, sensing someone's approach. A lone person steps through the light, and it is our boy entering the same dungeon. This hunters mock him for entering without any gear, but our boy remembers his first time here right after awakening. A system prompt appears before him, and he knows the hero's path failed humanity once before. This time he is ready to become a cold-blooded monster. This team's captain approaches him with a friendly greeting, asking where his weapon is, and our boy simply holds up his fist. This captain scoffs, assuming he is a martial artist, then asks what his professional level is, revealing he is only a level 1 professional, and the entire team is stunned by his answer. This captain grabs his shoulder, asking if he is joking, calling him a crazy person for coming here to die, but our boy stops his hand cold, calmly stating he is here to crush the monster. Another hunter laughs, saying he could not even beat their healer. As the captain tells him to stay put if he wants to live, he gives a final sneering warning, do not expect any help. This team heads into the cave, leaving him behind, though one woman glances back with concern. Suddenly, a female mage unleashes a powerful explosion, blasting a spider-like monster at the cave entrance, and the captain thanks her for the save as the rest of the team dives into the fray. Our boy stands inside the fiery cave, as a female teammate comments on the captain's attitude, but tells him not to worry since the captain means well, warning that a single mistake in here can be fatal. He simply notes that professionals have become more cautious, and she is surprised he talks like a high-ranking official, crediting Hero Mask's policies for the lower death rates. She then realizes she forgot to introduce herself. Her name is Yan Kyankian, a level 2 healer. And he introduces himself as Zio Q, a level 1 professional, which shocks her since he has not chosen a career path. While he thinks to himself that he created all of them, she suggests he become a spellcaster to stay safe in the back lines. Her eyes filled with genuine concern, and she apologizes for being too talkative, but he suddenly grabs her arm, pulling her away from a deadly purple spike, which slams into the wall right where she was standing. A teammate shouts a warning. It is a shadow spider, as a clawed hand reaches out from a dark portal, but our boy catches its razor-sharp leg with his bare hand, crushing the limb with a single squeeze, then swings the severed leg like a weapon, smashing it directly into the spider's head. Together, they stare at the defeated monster. One hunter says even professional martial artists cannot move like that, noting how he instantly crushed the spider's weak point. This rescued girl clings to our boy, blushing intensely. As he sees a system prompt confirming he gained experience points, he feels his power, certain he can grow even faster this time around. This team's leader thanks him for the save, offering a share of the reward, but our boy just shrugs it off as helping a teammate. A hunter sweats, thinking the kid is showing off on purpose. This leader then unleashes a powerful slash with his massive sword, and the team carves a path through the remaining spiders. He lays out the plan for the next fight, telling a female hunter to prepare her fire techniques for the webs. Another hunter stretches, predicting Mask must have been found guilty by now, as the female hunter recalls Mask's massacre in the city of Tuga. This girl he saved looks on, clearly upset by the conversation, and she defends Mask, saying he only acted to stop an infectious demon. This spiky-haired hunter scoffs, asking if she is a paid supporter, but the leader cuts them off, telling them not to argue in front of the new guy. He declares it is time to challenge the dungeon boss. Leading them deeper into a cave covered in thick webs, this team enters the lair already thinking about the valuable loot, while others discuss how much the boss's corpse will sell for. Suddenly, the leader shouts that something is coming, and a monstrous spider boss erupts from the darkness, its massive legs crashing down toward the team leader. A hunter leaps onto a monster's back, while another drives a spear into its hide. Our boy notes the monsters have no intelligence, believing with the right matchup. A female archer unleashes a flaming arrow, which slams into the creature's rocky shell, engulfing the beast in a fiery explosion. This captain boasts about clearing the raid without injury, and promises to split the rewards as usual. But a teammate reports the treasure chest is missing, as the archer senses something approaching. A girl in a school uniform appears from the shadows, her head strangely covered by an astronaut helmet. This team realizes why the chest never spawned. This is the secret boss of the dungeon. One hunter scoffs, unimpressed by its presence, as the boss stumbles weakly against the cave wall, then suddenly lunges forward with glowing red eyes. This confident hunter charges in to meet the attack, but his teammate yells that it is a foolish move. This story of the monster continues to unfold, as our boy and the others watch the confrontation, and the hunter smirks, having pierced the boss's torso, preparing to deliver the final blow. But the wound on its body begins to twist and regenerate, but the hunter is suddenly ensnared by strange, glowing webs, as the boss pulls him closer with an unbreakable grip. His teammates can only scream his name in horror, and the leader realizes physical attacks are useless, yelling for a flame spell. This team's mage quickly conjures a fire incantation, engulfing the astronaut helmet boss in a massive inferno. But the team leader watches, sensing something is wrong. This flames roar with incredible intensity, yet the boss's legs remain standing in the blaze, and she emerges completely unscathed, revealing more limbs. This team stares in disbelief, having never seen such a creature. As the captured hunter screams, still trapped in her grasp, this boss delivers a swift, brutal kick, and the hunter's eyes widen in sheer terror, leaving him broken on the ground as she stands over him. This archer roars in fury, ready to avenge his fallen comrade, but Zio Q's hand stops him cold, warning him that a rash attack will only lead to his death. This team leader agrees, confirming they have no chance of winning head-on, and learns the escape portal will not open for 3 more hours. He orders a fighting retreat to the dungeon entrance, just as the monstrous boss prepares her next assault, unleashing another wave of her deadly silk threads. This archer fires a volley of glowing arrows to intercept, piercing her body, but the attack continues unabated. A hunter screams as his teammate is ensnared, pulled helplessly toward the astronaut helmet boss, as its chest erupts into a horrifying maw, and a spray of red fills the air. This women watch in absolute terror, as the hunter is impaled on its monstrous teeth, his body slumping lifelessly to the ground. This captain charges in with a furious, flaming punch, striking the boss with all his might, but he cannot believe what he sees. His full-strength attack did absolutely nothing. Suddenly, the same white threads wrap around him, and he knows this is the end. He desperately calls out for his sword, his face filled with pure dread, trying to reach the weapon just out of his grasp. But his feet are planted firmly to the ground. A massive spike erupts from the boss's side, piercing the captain straight through the chest. This creature stands over another fallen hunter while Zio Q supports the injured survivor. This archer panics, saying she does not want to die, and she turns to flee for her life, but Zio Q reveals the boss let her go on purpose, explaining that fear makes for a better meal. Yan Kaienkian looks on, confused by the term God chosen. But Zio Q scoffs, remembering the countless ones he has already killed. This boss collapses to the ground, surrounded by a dark aura, which suddenly erupts with overwhelming force, forcing Yan Kaienkian to cast a poison-repelling spell. This purple energy swirls around her protective barrier, and she realizes it is not poison but immense spiritual pressure. This boss sits up, its power filling the entire cave, its glowing red eyes locking onto its target. It taunts Zio Q for not collapsing like the others, but he just smirks, noting its pressure seems weaker now. He stands completely unfazed by the attack, revealing a monstrous form hidden within him, and the boss is suddenly blasted backwards, as his true demonic form begins to emerge. Its glowing eyes flare with immense power, unleashing a devastating counterattack, sending the boss flying across the cavern, but it recovers quickly, lunging forward once more. Moving with incredible speed and ferocity, its dark energy trailing behind it. Suddenly, one of its spider legs is severed midair, and the demonic form mockingly compliments the limb. In response, the boss unleashes a web of energy, which erupts in a blinding flash of light. A new monster appears, mocking the secret boss as a failure, calling her a low-level chosen one who stood no chance. It lunges forward with blinding speed, unleashing a devastating flurry of slashes. And the boss is torn apart by the brutal assault, trapped within a web of dark energy. Her red eyes glowing as she tries to break free, but the monster's attack is relentless. She is slammed into the ground, completely overwhelmed, reaching out one last time before collapsing. This monster pins her down with a single hand, preparing to deliver the final, fatal blow. When a system prompt declares the raid is complete, a mission reward is issued, the spider's foot. And all survivors are automatically teleported out. This scene shifts to a bustling modern city, where the team captain is rushed to the hospital, gravely injured. Yan Kaienkian worries about Zio Q, who has vanished, until she suddenly spots him across the street. This city skyline shines under a bright sun, as Zio Q stares at apartment rental prices, realizing he has no money and no way to survive in this world. Just then, a young woman calls out his name, waving her hands. And our boy turns around, slightly confused, as she recognizes him as the healer from the raid. She asks if he is looking for a place to live, and she seems to get an idea, explaining that Da City is relatively new. As they walk through an older, more rundown district, she kicks a small stone from her path, leading him to a modest-looking home. He notices a medal on the wall, a symbol of her father's service as a level 5 hero. She excitedly claims her father fought alongside Mask, but then dismisses it as a drunken lie. Zio Q asks where her father is now, and she explains the war took his life. He then asks about her mother, who died giving birth to her sister. She puts on a brave face, saying it is all in the past, then offers him a place to stay for the night. She points to an empty room in the left wing, and he gratefully accepts, vowing to repay her. Suddenly, the sound of a wheelchair approaches, and Yan Kaienkian introduces him to her sister, Kaienliu. But Kaienliu gives him a cold stare and wheels away. As Yan Kaienkian apologizes for her sister's behavior, she explains Kaienliu is upset about Mask's Judgment Day, and in her room the girl stares at her computer screen, reading hateful comments about the hero she admires. A young woman rages at her computer, defending Mask's honor, when a voice calls for Kaienliu to come and eat, but she yells back that she is busy with guests arriving, annoyed that she has to personally greet someone. Elsewhere, Yan Kaienkian agrees to come out of her room, sitting down for a simple meal with Zio Q. He eats, remembering his past life eating unseasoned monster meat. When fighting for mankind made any food taste good, a news report plays on the TV about Mask's disappearance, as two pundits discuss the official government stance, with one suggesting Mask is just faking his power loss to escape his crimes. This other anchor listens, considering the hypothesis. He worries about the impact Mask's absence will have on humanity's peace, but the professor dismisses the myth of one person's importance, declaring that humanity can move forward without Mask. Yan Kaienkian asks if Mask is really a criminal on the run, noticing Zio Q is already on his fourth bowl of rice. He simply repeats what the TV said about Mask's crimes, but Yan Kaienkian passionately insists he must have his reasons. His cold reply shocks her. He does not care about Mask at all. Suddenly, a violent banging erupts from the front door, and she recognizes who it is, the Kaijiang Investment Company. She moves to open the door, revealing a group of menacing men waiting outside. She stands firm, declaring she will not sell her house. A man in a floral shirt taunts Yan Kaienkian, reminding her that her team is gone, and gives her a 5-day ultimatum. He offers 100,000 for her land, but she is stunned by the lowball offer, and he just laughs, mocking her naivety. Suddenly, he spots someone behind her. Assuming it is her boyfriend, he pushes past, extending a hand for a formal greeting. He introduces himself as Tujing Kenzo, and Zio Q accepts the handshake. Yan Kaienkian shouts a desperate warning, revealing Tujing is a mental attack specialist. Tujing smirks, believing his trap is sprung, but Zio Q remains completely unfazed. This mage dives into his opponent's mind, planning to leave him broken for weeks. But he finds himself in an unfamiliar void, his confidence instantly shattering. As he realizes this is Zio Q's mental world, he immediately tries to escape, his face contorted in pure terror. Before him, a colossal wave rises from the depths, crashing down with overwhelming force, and he is completely submerged in his target's power. This thug's eyes widen in absolute terror, and he screams out that Zio Q is a monster. His partner grabs him, trying to shake him out of his panic. While Yan Zixi wonders if this is some new kind of threat, suddenly a hand stops the aggressive man cold, as his associate warns him to think before he acts. Realizing Zio Q must be at least a level 3 professional, this man scoffs, admitting they underestimated her new backer, then delivers a final, empty threat. Yan Zixi turns to Zio Q, stunned that he took down the thug, and he asks how long she has been dealing with them. She explains they have been harassing her since her father's death, and only stopped when she joined a professional team. Zio Q mentions a policy he himself created to protect military families, but she just shakes her head, saying it never helped, explaining that the wealthy are always favored over them. He listens quietly, his expression hardening. Later, he helps her with chores in the kitchen, and she thanks him for driving the thugs away. She asks about his future plans for raiding dungeons, warning him about the dangers of betrayal within teams. Zio Q recalls a law he made as mask to prevent infighting, but he accepts the reality of his new path, knowing that a monster must always walk alone. A new system prompt appears, a solo mission in a level 4 realm. A stream of blue energy materializes in a vast empty hall, quickly expanding into a swirling, unstable portal, and Zio Q steps through, having bypassed the official system. He observes the dungeon's medieval European style, walking cautiously down the checkered floor, until he stops before two menacing gargoyle statues. Suddenly, the stone begins to crack as their red eyes ignite, and a system prompt identifies them as level 3 scarlet gargoyles. He knows they're tough demons with magic resistance. Realizing Yan Kaienqian's team would have been decimated here, these two monsters lunge forward with blinding speed, their stone maws roaring as they close in, but Zio Q just smirks, pitying their bad luck, as he unleashes his true, demonic form. He stands over the shattered remains of his enemies, a severed claw lying broken on the ground. Now in his monstrous form, he ventures deeper into the cathedral. As more stone statues begin to stir in the mist, he stands surrounded by the rubble of his foes and the awakening horde. This newly awakened gargoyles prepare to attack as one, an overhead view showing him at the center of the swarm. They all dive down, a wave of stone and fury, but he just forms a massive, glowing blade from his arm and slices through the first attacker with overwhelming power. This monster is instantly torn to shreds by the brutal assault. Zio Q's demonic form taunts a gargoyle, asking if it is scared, then smashes it into a wall with incredible force, his glowing red eyes surveying the destruction. A stone guardian calls him a monster in a human body, declaring his appearance is an insult. Back at the dungeon entrance, the great doors stand sealed, until a new team kicks them open. Stepping into the desolate, silent hall, a teammate asks if they are the first ones here, and the captain confirms the bureau sealed the entrance. But a woman on the team finds something strange on the ground, analyzing the massive cracks in a shattered gargoyle, and she realizes in horror it was ripped apart by hand, leaving the captain stunned by the impossible feat. His teammate points upward, confirming her theory, showing them the devastation left behind. Meanwhile, at the Secret Realm Inspection Bureau, an official slams a report down, demanding answers for a major failure, accusing the Bureau of letting unregistered people into the realms. A senior director roars that this is a threat to all of humanity, warning that an unregistered person could ambush official teams, reminding them that humans were once the greatest threat in the dungeons. He holds the file for the level 4 Gargoyle Secret Realm, explaining the infiltrator is likely a peak level 4 or level 5 professional. This director concludes it is a single individual, as all the monsters were killed with the same brutal method. A man explains a solo raider cleared multiple realms and orders his team to watch the markets for the loot. This scene shifts to the Da City professional market, where a muscular man pays for some goods, handing a thick wad of cash to Zio Q. Our boy suspects he sold his items too cheaply, but the money is enough to cover his rent. Nearby, he overhears a lowball offer being made. It is Yan Kaienqian trying to sell an old but well-kept sword, but the shopkeeper claims it is just worthless scrap. He makes a pity offer of 3,500, feigning generosity, while secretly knowing its true value. This blade contains a rare material worth over 10,000. He pressures her to accept the deal quickly, but a voice suddenly tells her to wait. Zio Q's eyes narrow, seeing through the scam. As a prompt reveals the blade is a level 5 weapon stained with demon god blood. He steps in, telling Yan Kaienqian he wants to buy it, and the furious shopkeeper tells him to back off. Zio Q ignores him, handing her all his cash instead. Later, the two sit together on a park bench, and she insists on only taking 1,500 for the sword, but he insists she take the money as payment for rent and food, explaining the blade is far more valuable than she knows. She looks at him, realizing he is just as mysterious as the sword itself. She admits she saw how he escaped the dungeon early, and Zio Q thinks about the name Flying Crow. Yan Kaienqian feels helpless, unable to protect her father's legacy, explaining she needs money to keep her sister alive. She recounts the Great Ghost Incident, a level 10 monster attack, revealing her father died fighting it, leaving only his sword behind. This monster's deadly radiation turned the sky green. And she explains her sister Qianliu was a sword prodigy, but now needs constant treatment for radiation poisoning. Zio Q remembers that monster, it took only one punch to kill, and he asks about the victim compensation fund he established as Mask. She feels a weight lifted from her chest, ready to head back. But as they walk, two men in suits follow close behind. One of the men questions if they will find the secret realm, but his partner is confident in their director's analysis, vowing they will find the thief who plundered it. This scene shifts back to the house under a dark sky. Inside, Kyan Liu rages at online trolls when a sudden urgent knocking echoes through the house. Her eyes widen in alarm. It is the Kaijiang Investment Company. This violent banging continues at the front door, and she turns with a look of grim determination. Wheeling herself toward the commotion, her hand closing around a wooden sword, she moves to confront the intruders, ready for a fight. This front door is kicked open with a brutal crash, and the thug leader smirks knowing someone was home. He sees Kyan Liu and cruelly mocks her disability, but she charges forward, screaming in defiance. She swings her wooden sword with all her might, only to be knocked from her wheelchair to the ground. Helpless but still furious, she glares up at him as he pins her sword with his foot. He taunts her, asking if she can even reach him now. This leader orders his men to find the others, vowing revenge on Zio Q. His thugs begin to ransack the house, but report back that no one else is there. He decides to take Kyan Liu hostage to lure them out, but his subordinate warns him against kidnapping. This leader reconsiders, then devises a new, darker plan. He will stage a minor accident with a garbage truck. His men laugh, understanding the sinister implication. As they leave, a storm breaks over the city, and rain begins to pour down relentlessly. Meanwhile, Yan Kaienkian and Zio Q are almost home when her eyes widen in absolute horror. She sees her sister lying on the ground in the rain. Kyan Liu is soaked and defeated, but her eyes burn with rage. Yan Kaienkian screams her sister's name, rushing forward. As Zio Q helps the girl up, knowing exactly who did this, Yan Kaienkian asks Zio Q to help her sister inside, and he wheels Kyan Liu under the eaves as the rain pours. Outside, Yan Kaienkian stands before a mountain of garbage, dumped by a man who mockingly calls her home a garbage dump. His partner jeers at her to wash herself in the rain, calling the trash a gift from the Kaijiang Company. Kyan Liu's hand clenches on her wheelchair, shaking with rage, and she tries to go after them, but Zio Q stops her. He tells her it will only make her sister feel worse. As they watch Yan Kaienkian stand alone in the downpour, she walks back, soaked and utterly defeated. This three of them watch the rain fall in silence. Kyan Liu turns to him, her voice breaking, and asks if there is any justice in the world. His answer is cold and immediate: there never was. She argues about fairness, but he tells her it is just a fabrication. He takes her wooden sword, explaining injustice falls on everyone, and declares that the world itself is unjust. Then he snaps the wooden blade clean in two, and she breaks down, screaming in despair. He says her family's misery is minor to him, but trouble always seems to find him anyway. As he steps out into the rain, she asks where he is going, and he turns back with a chilling promise to eliminate them. She calls him crazy, warning him Kaijiang's boss is a level 5 professional. Zio Q stands in the rain, holding the ancient sword, as a storm rages over the city skyline, centering on the Kaijiang Investment Tower. Inside, two executives celebrate a new redevelopment deal. While outside, Zio Q walks toward their headquarters alone. A man in a suit stands guard in the massive lobby, and his superior with glasses notices something amiss. Seeing a lone figure emerge from the revolving door, he dismisses the kid as just another troublemaker, as two guards move to intercept him, demanding he drop his weapon. They try to stop him, but he walks right past them, and in a flash, the man with glasses sees a terrifying vision. As his men are instantly torn apart in a spray of blood, a new mission prompt appears for the blood sacrificial blade, demanding he use Flying Crow to eliminate all hostiles, promising to upgrade the sword with their blood. More guards armed with katanas emerge from an elevator, surrounding him as he stands over the fallen men. A leader warns his team about the hostile intruder, and the four swordsmen take their positions around him. Two of them lunge forward, shouting the order to attack. But their blades are effortlessly blocked by Flying Crow, and Zio Q moves with impossible speed, decapitating them both in a single, fluid motion. This last remaining guard stares, his weapon glowing. He plunges the blade deep into a thug's chest, this sword moving in a blur of motion as he slices through another guard without a second thought. A survivor thinks he sees an opening and leaps in for a killing blow, but Zio Q simply swats him aside with a devastating punch. This man is shocked by his raw physical power, as Zio Q walks calmly through the carnage he has created. Meanwhile, the company's boss boasts about acquiring the sister's house, while his associate dreams of the profits to come. Suddenly, a panicked subordinate bursts through the door, screaming that someone is killing their way inside. He explains a single intruder is behind the entire massacre, but the leader scoffs, saying they only pick on the weak. He decides to go and check out the disturbance himself. This boss grabs his enormous battle axe from the wall, and his two lieutenants follow him out into the hallway. He stops, sensing a sudden shift in the air, just as one of his men begs for his life down the corridor. A flash of red energy cuts the man down instantly, revealing Zio Q at the top of the stairs, his eyes glowing. This boss and his men are stunned into silence. But he quickly rallies them, declaring they are all level 4 professionals. This trio powers up their weapons and abilities, demanding to know why Zio Q is attacking their company. Zio Q knows his human form will not be enough, as the lights suddenly go out, plunging them into darkness. They guess he is an assassin trying to ambush them, but the gunman just smirks, claiming he rules the dark. He activates his night vision, his eyes glowing green. But what he sees on the floor leaves him stunned. It is Xiao now in his full demonic form. Outside the tower, the storm continues to rage, and inside, the gunman begins to sweat with fear. He sees the demonic creature at the end of the hall, which lunges forward in a terrifying blur. In an instant, the blade slices through his shoulder, and his partner calls out, smelling the scent of blood. He realizes his comrade is already dead. Another flash of red and black energy. And the axe wielder barely blocks the attack. He knows if he'd been any slower, he'd be dead too. This boss watches the fight with a grim expression, then unleashes a massive ice arrow attack. Xiao looks up at the incoming projectile, raising a single hand to meet the spell, as the massive shard of ice crashes down upon him, but he shatters it with effortless power, leaving only a trail of destruction in his wake. This axe wielder hears a terrible sound, screaming in horror. This boss looks up at a towering demonic shadow, just as a thin red line appears across his neck. He lets out one final terrified curse as the blood-soaked blade drinks its fill. This last of the company's men stare in horror, stammering in utter disbelief at the scene. Before them stands Xiao in his full demonic form, his glowing eyes overlooking the bodies of the fallen. But a new voice suddenly roars for him to stop, revealing a swordsman at the top of the stairs. He senses the power, identifying a level 6 professional, but he is puzzled by the lack of demonic madness. He rules out a transformation-type ability. Realizing he is facing a creature between human and demon, he smirks, knowing this discovery will please his backers. This swordsman vanishes in a blur of motion, aiming a glowing green slash right for the head. This attack connects, leaving a crack in the demonic mask, and the swordsman grins, believing he has found a weakness. He unleashes a whirlwind of energy slashes, tearing into Xiao's armored body. He mocks the demon's tenacity, calling him a cockroach, and prepares a final, more powerful attack. He lunges forward with his glowing rapier, convinced that his opponent fell right into his trap. This boss's hand reaches for a hidden weapon, pulling out a massive revolver. He fires point-blank into Xiao's head, smirking that he could not be captured alive. At least the corpse will be valuable. But his confidence shatters into disbelief. Xiao stands completely unharmed, his glowing eyes revealing he anticipated the move. He recognizes the boss's sword style, explaining it was created to be used only by the righteous. This boss laughs, claiming killing monsters is righteous. Xiao asks if destroying families is righteous too, but the boss does not care about his reasons for revenge. He declares that anything hindering progress is a sin, and that he will always stand on the side of justice. Xiao listens, then simply says, "I see now," as he reveals his own definition of righteousness. A blur of red and black energy whips past the boss's face, forming a terrifying blade just inches away. This man stares in absolute horror, as a demonic tendril pierces his shoulder and another impales him through the mouth. Outside, the storm rages on, oblivious to the slaughter. This boss hangs defeated, held by demonic limbs. Demanding to know what kind of monster Xiao truly is, Xiao's demonic form asks if he did not already explain, reminding them of his true identity. As his power surges around him, this sword begins to thrum with energy, glowing with a sinister red light as his demonic hand grips the hilt. A system prompt reveals the sword's rebirth, now called Blood Raven, a weapon with unlimited growth potential. He looks at the blade, accepting its new name. Feeling a faint heartbeat from within the steel, this last survivor stammers in absolute terror, but Xiao remains silent and menacing. This man falls to his knees, begging for his life. As Xiao raises the newly awakened weapon, he gives the blade its first command, unleashing a devastating wave of blood energy. This final thug is completely consumed by the attack, his body obliterated in the crimson tide. This blast erupts from the top of the tower, piercing the stormy sky above the city. Below, an armed response team watches in shock, as a soldier reports to his commander that the building is surrounded, but the commander orders them to hold their fire, stating that while few inside are innocent, it is the government's duty to pass judgment. He vows that no matter what, they will be punished accordingly. A soldier reports that someone is coming out, as Kain Liu realizes he went to Kaijiang alone. Yan Kainqian panics, certain he is going to die, and grabs an umbrella from the stand. She rushes out into the storm as her sister calls after her. Outside, she stops, looking around in the downpour, when a city defense army soldier approaches her and asks for her cooperation in an investigation. He shows her a picture, asking if she knows this man, and her eyes widen in recognition of Xiao. This soldier confirms he is not only alive but in good health. This scene shifts to a city defense army prison. Inside, Xiao sits bound to a chair in an interrogation room. A white-haired commander asks if the prisoner has talked, but his subordinate reports he only confessed to the attack. His name is Xiao, but he has no records, like a ghost. This investigation linked him to a woman named Yan Zixi, and the commander asks about her identity. She is a level 2 healer whose father was a level 5 professional. This father was a retired soldier weakened by an old wound, who died in a past incident that also disabled his other daughter. Yan Zixi's testimony confirms she met Xiao in a secret realm, and that he attacked Kaijiang to defend her family's land. This commander muses on what a bloodthirsty swordsman he is, just as another man enters, addressing him as Director Arthur. A stern official decides they will have to ask him personally, as his commander kicks the interrogation room door open. And Xiao looks up from his chair, unfazed. His expression remains calm and unreadable, as the commander enters, wondering if the kid is staring at him. but he realizes the boy's gaze is on his cloak with a strange nostalgia. This official holds a file confirming Zio Q's identity. As the commander sits, warning him about the consequences of his crimes, he's given two choices: a death sentence or the front lines. This commander reveals this atonement battalion is a suicide mission. But Zio Q asks if fighting monsters is truly a punishment, admitting he has already been on the front lines but in a different role. This revelation catches both officials by surprise, and the commander realizes they might be able to identify him. This official reveals that he and director Arthur were also on the front line, but only the legendary Mask and the first heroes truly established it. Commander Arthur points to his medals, saying he fought under Lord Mask, though he only ever watched the hero from a distance. This official slams the table, demanding Zio Q understand how fragile peace is, especially right in front of the federal parliament. His voice echoing in the Stark interrogation room, he leans in close, asking if Zio Q gets it now, explaining his actions could cause widespread panic and death. Zio Q listens in silence, his head slightly bowed, as the two men stare him down, waiting for an answer. An official scoffs that defying the federal government is futile, and advises him to confess before he is sent to the capital. But Zio Q knows that is not an option for now. As a new mission appears, the Great Obscenity Reincarnation, a calamity-level monster will be reborn from residual radiation, and Zio Q remembers this from his previous life, when he was sent to the front lines as the hero Mask. He defeated the creature with ease back then, only to be blamed by the public for every death. He now wonders why he should care if they live or die. Back in the present, two officials discuss his case, with one noting his unprecedented speed and power. He concludes Zio Q has dual abilities or even more, a genius who killed a level 6 while mastering multiple paths. This director calls him a fool for risking it all for Kaijiang, reminding his colleague that even the great Mask was put on trial. He crushes his cigarette, knowing this kid stands no chance. As the past and present collide, we see the federal government capital, Star City, a metropolis rebuilt after humanity's dark ages, now a symbol of a new futuristic era. Inside, a council debates Zio Q's rampage as the leader notes his youth and terrifying talent. Another official slams the table, demanding a public execution, revealing Kaijiang was his asset and screaming for revenge. This president confirms he sent the prisoner to the front lines, and his subordinate is shocked he was not publicly executed. Elsewhere, a bruised executive worries about losing his authority, but the president cuts the discussion short, demanding to know why they still have not found Mask. Inside a massive boardroom, the tension builds. He pores over the documents, frustrated that Mask has simply vanished, and fears he will reappear to give them a nasty surprise. An aide tries to calm him, insisting Mask is powerless now, while another claims they all felt his energy fade away. This board dismisses him as a lone man with no supporters, but the president sees any unknown variable as a threat to his power. He recalls the political sacrifices made to expel Mask, and declares they must find him before moving on. This next topic is grim. The monster frontline is failing, with monster appearances up a staggering 32%. This president is disgusted, wondering if his forces are useless without Mask. A man with glasses stares at the number in disbelief, questioning if they pushed their former hero too far. This president's glare is a chilling threat, and the man immediately stammers that he would not dare question them. This president erupts, asking if the Federation cannot survive on its own. He proposes redeploying city troops to the most vulnerable areas. But a long-haired man advises against it, citing city defense needs. Another board member accuses him of protecting his family's business interests. This blonde official decides to downsize the city defense force and orders Zio Q be sent to the capital as an example. This scene shifts to the Da City Defense Force building, where an officer tells the Yan sisters they are free to go, but they will be summoned as witnesses for the trial. She explains that charges are being filed against the vicious culprit, but Yan Kaienkian defends Zio Q's actions. This officer stammers that killing is wrong no matter what, and Kaienkian asks if his victims were innocent citizens. She declares that those men were the true monsters, when a new voice agrees they all deserve to die. It is the high-ranking Commander Jiang, and Yan Kaienkian looks up at him in surprise, but he states that judgment belongs to the system, not to one man. She asks why they never acted, but he only speaks of necessary sacrifices. She wonders if they are meant to simply endure the darkness, and her question leaves the commander looking troubled. Her hand clenches tightly on her wheelchair, asking if even resisting injustice is wrong. She screams that if so, the world's existence is a mistake. Her sister Yan Zixi has seen too much to share her outrage, and simply tells her it is time to go home. With a look of quiet resignation, she agrees. As they leave, Commander Jiang wishes the young woman could stand again, and his subordinate asks why he would say such a thing. An official notes that anger can be a source of strength, as we see Yan Kainliu wishing she had that power before. This long-haired man scoffs, questioning what good anger is to someone disabled. This scene shifts to the sisters' quiet home, where Yan Zixi tells Kainliu to rest while she finds a way to help Zio Q. Kainliu sits in her wheelchair, her head bowed in thought, alone in the quiet of her sunlit room. She vows that if there are places the sun cannot reach, she will be the light, but if darkness persists, then the sun is useless. She rises from her wheelchair, a strange power radiating from her. Her feet are planted firmly on the floor, and she takes a hesitant step forward, leaving the empty wheelchair behind. Outside, her sister calls back to her about the messy room. then turns and freezes in utter shock. As Kainliu reaches out calling her sister's name, she screams for her to run as dark tendrils erupt from her body. Elsewhere, a commander addresses his officers in a briefing, but he suddenly stops, sensing something terrible. A subordinate asks what he is looking at, and the commander recognizes the aura of the great obscenity. His men protest, saying Mask already destroyed that monster. But he smashes through a window, ordering an immediate city evacuation. Below, the city streets are bustling with normal life. As a news report recounts the capture of the Kaijiang culprits 3 days ago, a man with glasses notices spring has arrived, wondering why the flowers are blooming so soon as the roses begin to grow at an unnatural rate, glowing with a strange, ethereal energy. This entire bush suddenly bursts into full bloom, and the man looks on, completely bewildered. Monstrous bee emerges from the foliage, landing on one of the oversized flowers. Its sharp leg pierces the stem and it is absorbed into a growing mass of petals. This roses continue to bloom under a darkening sky. Nearby, a traffic light turns green and pedestrians begin to cross the street. A young man tells his friend they can go now, but his friend suddenly freezes in place. He senses a terrifying presence as thorny vines erupt from his face. His hand dissolves into a cloud of petals. And another civilian explodes into a floral burst. This air fills with drifting pink petals, as a woman catches them, calling them beautiful, but her wonder turns to a scream of terror, as a massive pink sphere crashes into the street. It is a grotesque mass of smiling, flowery faces, and a new monster with a rose for a head appears. A professional hero arrives, telling everyone not to panic, and the civilians cheer, believing they are saved. He powers up his massive blade for a strike, unleashing an explosion on the fleshy monster. But another hero sees the infection spreading, as an onlooker recognizes the green glow with horror. It is the great obscenity growing through the city. A commander questions how so many demons appeared, but his superior explains the radiation has changed. Its intent to corrupt and destroy remains the same. He lands on a rooftop, naming them human flowers. He warns his squad that monsters evolve beyond understanding, ordering them to contain the highly infectious spread. His troops move out as the infection overtakes the city. A civilian screams for help, his hand glowing green, as people around him transform into flower-headed monsters. This commander shouts down at the chaos, his mustache igniting with fiery energy, and unleashes a massive pillar of flame. This fiery attack rages through the street, engulfing a hooded man as a survivor sighs in relief, but a small piece of debris hits another man's face, and he screams as the infection consumes him. This commander watches, realizing his attack failed to stop the plague. As an aerial view shows the city being completely overgrown, massive vines choke the city skyline, turning the streets into a floral nightmare. Director Arthur calls it a green hell, as thorny tendrils crush a protective barrier. Commander Jiang orders his troops to hold their fire, warning that even a single piece of debris is infectious. Director Arthur runs up, demanding answers, and the commander can only call it a disaster. Arthur recognizes the scent of the great obscenity. As Jiang explains the monster's apparent immortality, he reveals that even immortal demons can be killed if the medium that resurrects them is eradicated. Arthur explodes in rage at this revelation, and the commander asks what he means. He remembers Mask ordering officials to cleanse the radiation, but they ignored the order and embezzled the funds. Now their corruption has doomed the entire city. Commander Jiang changes the subject, asking about the radiation spread, and Arthur realizes he plans to fight the monster himself. This commander senses the creature is not at full power yet. Explaining they must strike before it fully matures, he declares they must destroy it now or pay a much higher price. Arthur is left speechless by his resolve, but agrees to send the energy data map for support. Meanwhile, the pristine capital city remains untouched. Breaking news flashes across the city, announcing city defense forces will be sent to the front. This parliament's decision is now official, but the broadcast is suddenly interrupted with an emergency report of a monster in Das City. This city is already being consumed by massive vines, and citizens watch the chaos unfold on social media, debating if their former hero Mask will save them. An evacuee posts photos from the disaster zone, revealing the plant-like monsters roaming the streets. Panic spreads online as people realize the scale of the threat, learning the monsters are a mutated great obscenity. When a new post claims the city's commander has killed it, this news praises Commander Jiang's heroic stand, promising a live broadcast from the heart of the battle. This live feed shows the city completely overgrown, where Commander Jiang stands alone against the horde. He moves with incredible speed through the tendrils, a blur of motion against the green chaos, before suddenly coming to a stop, as he recognizes a presence before him. A strange woman stands atop a giant rose, her gaze calm and otherworldly, but the commander scoffs at her divine appearance. He knows this trick, monsters imitating gods to fool humanity. A subordinate warns Commander Jiang over the comms, and he calmly replies that he knows. He faces the monster, who asks if he regrets his earlier words. And he admits he does as he powers up an attack. He unleashes a devastating beam of blue lightning, but a giant rose blooms to shield her from the blast. This attack still connects, seemingly destroying her head. As a news crew praises the commander's overwhelming power, Commander Jiang floats above the city, crackling with energy, but he senses something is wrong with his target. Green tendrils begin to reform around her head, and she declares his attack was useless. Massive vines erupt, swatting at the news helicopter. As Yan Kainliu stands fully restored, surrounded by her power, A crown of thorns forms on her head, her eyes glowing white, and she smiles, completely unharmed by the assault. This commander realizes she has high-speed regeneration, while the reporter panics, unable to believe she is still alive. Commander Jiang unleashes another, more powerful barrage, completely engulfing the monster in lightning. But she emerges from the blast, untouched and glowing green, mocking the so-called sunlight meant to dispel darkness. This commander looks on in utter shock and immediately leaps back in retreat, sensing an immense and overwhelming danger. Commander Jiang sweats as the monster taunts his speed, and he zips through the overgrown city, but he is shocked to find she is even faster. This monster Qianliu appears behind him, calling his power a joke. She ensnares him in vines, mocking his inability to save anyone. His energy streaks across the blighted cityscape. As a news crew watches the impossible battle unfold, this commander realizes she is not actually moving fast, she is teleporting through the network of plants. Back at HQ, an officer screams for him to retreat, warned that she is immortal as long as the human flowers survive. A superior demands they deploy weapons to wipe out the entire area. But on the ground, Commander Jiang knows his options are limited, questioning if escape is even possible now. He stands with grim resolve, surrounded by the plague's energy, and adjusts the collar of his uniform. His hand brushes against the medals he earned, a determined smile crossing his face. This monster mocks his apparent surrender, calling him a trapped animal caught in her vines, but he simply says no as his hand ignites with red power. His entire body crackling with a new, terrifying energy. He roars that this is him living up to his duty until death. A massive pillar of crimson energy erupts into the sky, detonating in a city-shaking explosion. This news crew realizes the commander is using a fatal overload technique, but Director Arthur knows it is not suicide. It is a life force gambit, and he screams for Jiang to stop. This monster Qianliu notes his power is now equal to a level 8. But it is destroying his body from the inside out, and she asks if she is correct with a smug smile. Commander Jiang ignores her, his face a mask of pure rage, unleashing a devastating blast of crimson energy. She scoffs that it is useless as she can teleport instantly. But he is already there, his fist crackling with power. She is stunned, realizing his attack is faster than her thoughts, as he drives his bloodied fist forward with all his might. He reveals the lightning is burning away the constant infection, and the news crew cheers, thinking he is won with one punch. But Director Arthur screams that the monster is not dead. As energy readings show, its power is actually increasing. He tells his team this is not the great obscenity they know. A subordinate asks for clarification, and Arthur recounts the legend of Antaeus, invincible on the earth. He reveals this monster is the same, drawing power from every infected person, making her one being but also 10,000. This control room staff struggle to understand. As Arthur looks on with dawning horror, an operator shouts that her energy is reaching the highest threat level, and as Jiang stands alone, they realize Da City is finished. This monster Qianliu is impressed by his power as the commander recalls his own heroic dreams. She asks why he never used this power to save the innocent, her question echoed by the giant rose monsters. A chorus of why from the floral horde. Elsewhere, a protective barrier begins to shatter, and a soldier screams that he cannot hold it any longer. A rose monster smashes through their defenses, and the plant creatures begin to pull back. The surviving soldiers believe they are safe now, but one knows the fight is not over yet. He looks up in horror at something new forming, a massive green entity gathering energy above the city. It condenses into a blinding flash of light, revealing a face within the emerald glow. Her eyes snap open, burning with power. As Yan Qianliu is reborn from the blast, she repeats her question to the commander, and he blames this damn world for his inaction. He unleashes another torrent of crimson lightning, declaring that death is nothing new to him. He lunges forward, roaring that neither is being alive, and his hand pierces directly through her chest. He pushes his attack deeper into her core. As a news report declares his spectacular victory, on a train, civilians are inspired by the commander's heroic stand. As back in the city, Qianliu's body erupts with crimson energy. She declares that merely being alive is meaningless. While Commander Jiang, aged by his power, charges forward, he is immediately ensnared by her massive green vines, which tighten their grip around his straining body. She holds a tiny version of him in her hand, telling him to go to hell. But his eyes are filled with unyielding resolve. His entire body explodes into a cloud of pink petals, which drift silently over the overgrown city. Qianliu looks on, calling his sacrifice an egg against a stone. Back at headquarters, officials watch the final moments unfold, and a grim-faced superior confirms Jiang's energy has vanished. On the train, the once cheering family stares at the broadcast in shock, as a mother shields her daughter's eyes from the truth. Other passengers wonder if the city is doomed, asking if Mask will save them. But a man reminds them their hero resigned a month ago. Panic sets in as they realize they have no one left to turn to, and a heavy silence falls over the entire train car. This live feed continues as online viewers debate the city's fate. Elsewhere, in a high-security prison, an emergency alert blares, announcing a natural disaster-level monster and ordering an evacuation. A hand clenches into a fist, disgusted by the news. This blonde official from before rages at the hero's cowardice, condemning them for forgetting the sacrifices of the past. An official says they should not have been so ruthless with Mask, and the blonde chairman glares in anger. He slams his fist on the table in the parliament chamber, as a subordinate proposes a final solution for Da City. This others eagerly agree to use nuclear weapons, promising him the people's praise for his decisiveness. This chairman looks on, disgusted by their callousness. When an aide rushes in with an urgent report from the city, an officer on the comms clarifies the new arrival is humanoid, and he recoils in terror, asking if it is another monster. This scene shifts to the City Defense Force prison, where a dark energy has torn a hole through the roof. A guard lies on the ground, paralyzed with fear, as a figure steps out from the dust and debris. Inside, guards find the prisoner's cell empty, and a terrified officer stammers that he has escaped. Back in the overgrown streets of Da City, a soldier reports that Commander Jiang is gone. Panic spreads as the monstrous plants begin to stir again, and the remaining troops break ranks and flee for their lives. An officer screams for them to hold the line, while another soldier charges forward ready to fight, but he is immediately caught in a swarm of thorny vines. And his subordinate can only watch in horror. He powers up his own attack, vowing to fight with his captain. This soldier is overwhelmed by a blur of dark energy, but the attack slices through the vines instead, and his subordinate rushes to help his fallen captain. He looks up in disbelief, realizing they have been saved, as the news crew debates retreating or getting a better shot. This cameraman shouts for them to wait, announcing that support has finally arrived. Onlookers watch the broadcast, lamenting Jiang's sacrifice. As a new fighter tears through the monstrous plants, they see a terrifying armored warrior asking if this is their hero. Meanwhile, Liu speaks of the primal forest's nature, inviting everyone to join her in a world without pain. She promises a beautiful world free of suffering, explaining she is no longer just one person, but a collective consciousness of all she is assimilated. She smiles, promising this family will soon grow. But suddenly her connection begins to shatter, and she realizes a large group of her flowers has vanished. She screams in rage, demanding to know who is responsible. Below, the armored warrior stands amidst the carnage, and he recognizes the monster as someone he knows. He unleashes another devastating barrage of attacks, cutting his way through the overgrown cityscape. Liu is stunned. He is immune to her assimilation, as he dodges her grasp with incredible speed. Liu screams for him to get off her, but the Crimson Warrior is a blur of motion, slicing deep into her massive green hand. A flash of red energy cuts through the air as he lands on her other arm, relentless. He reaches her shoulder, but she spawns new defenders, a horde of smaller rose monsters charging forward. One of them glows with volatile energy, detonating in a blinding green explosion. This armored fighter nimbly dodges the blasts, his masked face showing no fear. He deflects another energy bomb with his blade, weaving through a storm of explosions. A reporter marvels at his impossible speed. As a crowd watches the battle on a public screen, an observer wonders if this is a monster or a human, analyzing his high-risk, death-defying dodges. He notes the fighter's skill surpasses even top-level professionals. Fearing a future where monsters are this intelligent, this Crimson Warrior sprints up the monster's back and suddenly sprouts massive, glowing wings, leaving the crowd confused by his sudden flight. But the analyst realizes it was a brilliant deception, as the warrior unleashes a devastating aerial attack. This blast of dark energy engulfs Liu's head. This news reporter celebrates, thinking the new arrival's attack worked. But across the city, the humanoid flowers begin to stir, and then they all stop moving in perfect unison, making the reporter wonder if they have actually won the fight. A single rose monster turns, asking, "Who are you?" A question echoed by the entire floral horde, their words ringing out across the blighted city. Yan Liu repeats the question, her face obscured by light, and the one she is addressing is the monstrous new arrival. She realizes he is a monster just like her, proposing they join forces to change this rotten world. She offers him the core of the great obscenity, a tempting reward that he seems to consider, as she invites him to join her cause. His thoughts drift to a promise to run towards the mountains, while the monsters declare they will destroy the world to end its darkness. Liu floats above her domain, a queen of the green hell, and the psychic shout makes the reporter clutch his chest in pain, realizing with horror that the two monsters know each other. This armored warrior remains silent, facing her from across the city, and she asks if his only goal is to stop this disaster. Suddenly, her head explodes in a blast of green energy, as he blitzes forward in a streak of crimson light, but her body instantly begins to regenerate, ensnaring him in a cage of thorny vines. Liu's headless body ensnares the newcomer, and she screams with glowing green eyes, trapping Mask in her thorny tendrils, pulling his smaller, spider-like form into her mouth. She clenches her jaw, trying to crush him, but a blast of dark energy erupts from her face. Mask emerges, revealing he's been searching for her true body. He deduces her core is not in her brain and flies directly toward her back. He unleashes a devastating cross-slash attack, slicing deep into the city's network of vines. But the severed tendrils begin to glow with power, and a massive explosion erupts from her back. Mask is caught in a storm of razor-sharp vines, which tear through the air with incredible speed. This entire area is consumed by a blinding green light. As a new monstrous face forms in the energy, this blast slams into Mask, cracking his armor, and the green energy begins to shred his body. He is torn apart by the relentless assault, but his own blades slice back against the vines. A massive pulsating core is revealed within the tendrils, and through his cracked helmet, Mask knows he has found it. He raises his sword for the final blow, as Liu's avatar appears to defend her heart. Liu's avatar stares back defiantly. As Mask's blade plunges deep into her core, She is shocked he managed to break through her defenses, and the massive vines around them begin to shift, trapping Mask within the monster's very heart. He stands before her ethereal form once more, wondering what his next move should be. Through his shattered helmet, he glares at her, but she just smiles, saying he has already killed her. Her giant form looms over the city, a final act of will, and the news crew despairs, believing Dawes City is doomed. But the cameraman suddenly sees something in the sky. As a shadow falls over the overgrown ruins, a streak of fire descends from the heavens, a missile hurtling towards its target. This reporter screams in terror, realizing it is a nuclear bomb. Back at headquarters, the Federation's final solution is confirmed, and the chairman is crushed by the weight of his decision. Qian Liu remarks on humanity's heartlessness, vowing to show the world one last thing before she dies. Mask's eye narrows with grim determination. As he stares into the swirling vortex of her being, a brilliant green light emanates from within her, and her vine-like body begins to rise into the air, unleashing an army of smaller flower monsters onto the city below. This monstrous vines begin to writhe and twist. As Qian Liu rises on a massive pillar of green energy, she forms a giant, thorny arm from her new body, which morphs into a muscular limb of pure plant matter. Her entire form becomes a colossal, world-ending tree. Just as the government's final solution arrives, a blinding flash of fire engulfs the sky, washing over the entire city in a wave of light. This world turns white with searing heat, and ghostly figures seem to rise from the blast. This light is too intense to see clearly, but before the blast hits, Mask is impaled by countless thorns. His eyes widen, caught in her final trap. This monstrous plant forms a massive bud around him. And then the nuclear warhead detonates over Dawes City. This shockwave shatters buildings and tears through the streets, while survivors are protected by a last-ditch energy shield. A man desperately shields a woman from the fallout, and they emerge into the smoldering ruins. She looks up at the devastation, asking if they won. This great tree burns, its canopy vaporized by the blast. In the command center, an operator confirms the energy signature is gone. And Director Arthur realizes the disaster has been terminated. An official clenches his fist, declaring the city secured. But amidst the ruins, Mask plummets from the sky. He remembers the medals he once wore, as officials wonder if the disaster is finally over. But the massive green growth begins to split apart, shattering into countless fragments and pink petals. A gentle rain of blossoms falls over the city, blanketing the overgrown streets in a strange calm. Survivors cautiously step out into the new world. As one man warns a woman not to touch the dangerous petals, she ignores him, reaching out with open hands, and the man is stunned when she remains unharmed. Elsewhere, Mask holds Qian Liu's human form in his arms, a quiet moment amidst the silent, overgrown ruins. Her eyes flutter open with a newfound clarity. Realizing she never knew spring could be so beautiful, she reaches a hand toward the falling petals. And as she touches one, her body begins to glow, leaving Mask sitting alone in the aftermath. A glowing green heart materializes in his hand, this very core of the great obscenity. He knows this is also the heart of Yan Qian Liu. A system prompt instructs him to equip the core, and he sends the item away without hesitation. A pillar of digital light marks the spot he once sat, as the world celebrates the end of Dawes City's calamity. But in the quiet streets, the rose monsters begin to stir again. But something bizarre is happening to Qian Liu's avatar. As crowds watching the broadcast are stunned into silence, a few realize the horrifying truth. This flower's Mask destroyed were all human. Suddenly, the signal cuts out across all platforms, and online discussions are scrubbed from the internet. At the Federation headquarters, a secret meeting is in session. An official warns the chairman that this cannot be contained, leaving the blonde chairman in a difficult position. This official coldly states that 1,000 deaths is not enough. When another member proposes a simple solution, they will use nuclear weapons but shift the blame to Mask. Another member objects, asking how this is Mask's fault, but the man argues his absence is precisely why he is to blame. He claims Mask abandoned humanity after receiving their support, making the entire tragedy his responsibility. With the other members gone, only 2 remain. The subordinate promises the chairman he will handle the details, but the chairman reveals his true concern is not blame, it is power. He asks for an update on the Morning Sun plan, a project that has progressed rapidly since a recent success. His subordinate declares that fusing humans with monsters is achievable. If Mask saved humanity, they will elevate it to a new level. A flashback to the Dark Ages reveals a world overrun, where monsters from a secret realm ravage civilization. This narration explains Mask's arrival changed everything, creating a new frontline in a lush, remote land, where soldiers now stand guard before a swirling portal. A squad nervously debates who will break bad news to their captain, each man trying to pass off the difficult task. Suddenly, the portal flares with brilliant blue light, and the men snap to attention as someone emerges. A single boot steps out onto the grass, and a soldier marvels at the speed of the clearance. As a white-haired warrior appears, hailed as a genius, her masked gaze is sharp and unwavering, and she asks her team why they look so troubled. A soldier hesitantly reports a disaster in Dawes City, and she asks if the monster has been dealt with. He blurts out the terrible news: her father sacrificed himself. She barely reacts, turning to head for the next mission, leading her stunned team deeper into the woods. Her subordinates worry about her cold demeanor, but she silences them with a sharp threat. This team is on the front lines, clearing countless secret realms, and a soldier asks if she needs backup for the next one. She turns back with an icy glare, questioning if he doubts her strength. This man quickly backpedals, terrified of her anger, as she walks toward the next portal alone. A soldier stares into a swirling blue portal, as his subordinates discuss their captain's terrifying aura, calling him an emotionless monster who feels no pain. Meanwhile, in a dark, watery cavern, a lone warrior with white hair explores the area, their spear crackling with dark energy. Her eyes scan the darkness, alert and focused, and she discovers a pile of slaughtered monsters, wondering if another team arrived before her. She inspects the wounds, realizing they were made by a single weapon, and deduces that another lone fighter is here. Suddenly, a sound echoes through the cave, and she readies her spear for a fight. Her gaze is sharp, ready for anything. A shark-like monster lunges from the shadows, revealing the other fighter battling a horde. She is stunned by his exquisite combat skill, noticing he is already badly injured, yet he holds his own through pure technique. Seeing her chance, she decides to intervene, dashing into the fray with incredible speed. She unleashes a powerful arcing strike, piercing a monster's skull with her spear. She spins through the horde, a blur of purple light, cutting down another beast with a single blow. A masked warrior cuts down a hulking beast, surrounded by monsters with a lone man watching from below. She turns to the stranger, demanding to know who he is, her eyes narrowing with suspicion, but the man suddenly collapses to the ground. He is unconscious, a strange mark on his face, and she scoffs, dismissing him as just another burden. Just then, something emerges from the water. A new horde of shark-like monsters charges forward. She sighs, annoyed by the new arrivals. She readies her spear, its purple energy crackling, her resolve hardening as she faces the creatures. A memory of a stern-faced commander flashes in her mind, and her eyes glow with a sudden rage, unleashing a torrent of violent energy. This entire cavern erupts in purple lightning. Outside the secret realm, her squad waits anxiously, worrying about their captain's fury over Jiang's fate. They debate her reckless bravery, a trait inherited from her father. Suddenly, the portal flares to life, announcing her return. She emerges carrying the stranger, leaving her team confused. Back at the frontline military camp, life is a constant battle, where even with superpowered individuals, doctors are essential. This man she rescued lies in a medical bed, his condition critical. A doctor explains his injuries should be fatal, yet he is healing at an impossible rate. A doctor explains the warrior's burns are from radiation, offering to keep him in a special room for treatment. But the white-haired woman refuses, ordering him brought back. An older man arrives, addressed as Teacher and Commander Liang, and they are all at the Army Camp in 3 Command Post. News reports announce a government rescue team in Das City, spinning the disaster as a success for the Federation. This broadcast honors the soldiers who sacrificed their lives, focusing on the portrait of a high-ranking officer. Commander Liang tells the woman her father died honorably. She looks down, accepting the grim news. He mentions turning down a media request for her and tells her not to blame her father for his actions. He says her blame was only a war with herself. This commander then leaves her alone with the unconscious warrior. As he departs, he tells her to ask the boy about fighting, intrigued by anyone who can control that particular sword. This warrior rests in bed, his weapon beside him. She hears the commander's fading cough in the hallway, her gaze returning to the man in the bed. She resolves to wait for him to wake up when his eyes suddenly snap open, wide with shock and aggression. This woman stares, startled by his abrupt awakening. As his hand darts out to grab his sword, she stands ready for a fight, but he just stares back calmly. He says he is fine, the Roman 4 can go, and asks where he is, learning it is Army Camp N3. She confirms she rescued him, introducing herself as Jiang Ling, and he gives his name Xiao Q. A news report suddenly plays on a nearby screen, broadcasting the Federation's official narrative, blaming Mask for abandoning his duty. Jiang Ling smirks, noting how desperate they sound and how convenient Mask is as a scapegoat. She then warns Xiao Q not to cause trouble, threatening to break his bones if he does, but he calmly tells her she could not beat him. His confidence seems to amuse her, and she leaves to clear the next secret realm. Outside, her squad questions her about the stranger, wondering if the name Xiao Q is familiar, as they sense their captain's barely contained rage. Just then, Xiao Q emerges from the room, sword in hand. This soldiers approach, asking where he is going. Shocked when he says he is heading to the secret realm, he clutches his chest, feeling the great obscenity's core, as a soldier reminds him he needs a team to enter. But another says to let him go, they could use the help. But the Supreme Commander himself appears in the hallway, and a soldier protests that this is against the rules. But the commander simply asserts his absolute authority. His men immediately fall silent, terrified into submission. This young warrior watches the exchange, sword in hand, as the commander gives him a knowing glance. Meanwhile, the white-haired captain waits outside, as 2 of her subordinates finally catch up to her. They complain about the arrogant newcomer's recklessness, but she seems to be considering something else entirely, suggesting he might have his own hidden intentions. Her men question if he is really that powerful, as one recounts the captain's own prodigious history. Elsewhere, the warrior walks with a new squad through a barren land, who asks if he has a secret connection to the commander. He denies it, prompting them to call their leader a legend. They explain the commander is blind but has superhuman senses, and that he once fought side by side with the hero Mask. He was part of the original Repelling Monsters army, a flashback revealing that our boy is Mask himself. He once led humanity against endless hordes of creatures, fighting a bloody war to establish a single foothold. The survivors of that war built the front lines of today. Back in the present, Mask stands before a new portal, and the soldiers pledge to follow him into battle. This dark-haired warrior asks if they will help him, but he quickly refuses, saying he will go alone. He walks toward the swirling blue portal by himself. Admitting he prefers the danger of the secret realms, dark energy begins to envelop his body. As a monstrous wolf snarls from the shadows, an entire pack of the beasts charges forward, but they are met by Mask in his full monster form. He knows his body is still weak from the nuke, giving him only 3 minutes in this form. But 3 minutes is all he needs. He vanishes into the charging horde, a blur of red and black, and in an instant the monsters are torn apart. This entire pack lies slain on the forest floor. Suddenly their bodies begin to glow with green light, dissolving into particles of pure life force. This corpses vanish into a cloud of energy, leaving Mask standing alone in the aftermath. This energy flows into him, healing his wounds. While outside, the soldiers doubt he will even survive. They joke that he is probably hiding near the entrance. When the portal suddenly erupts with light, Mask emerges completely unscathed. Leaving the two men stunned by his speed, they ask if he defeated the realm's boss, and he simply says yes. A soldier examines the boss drops. Realizing Zio Q cleared the realm in just 17 minutes, a speed that even surpasses their legendary captain. But Zio Q is already moving on to the next one, his focus unwavering as he faces another portal. He moves from realm to realm without rest, clearing them at an impossible pace. Meanwhile, another team arrives at a cleared realm. Discovering the portal is dead and the loot is gone, they realize it is the 4th or 5th empty realm they have found today, and they suspect it is the team that left camp with Zio Q. A soldier angrily assumes another camp is stealing their resources, but the white-haired captain seems unconcerned, though a flash of annoyance crosses her face. Back at Army Camp in 3, teams report their findings for rewards, and Zio Q's squad walks past the captain's team. She overhears the clerk shock 17 realms in a single day. This official confirms the energy signatures are gone, but he nervously asks for proof of their accomplishment. In response, they dump a massive pile of loot on his desk, all precious materials from the realm bosses. This clerk stammers that not even Captain Jiang Ling could do this. But the soldier proudly presents Zio Q as the one responsible. Seeing their strength, the official offers them a dangerous new mission, and Zio Q accepts the high-rank quest without hesitation. A soldier boasts that Zio Q is even stronger than Captain Jiang, but the clerk nervously tries to warn him to look behind him. This man freezes, seeing Jiang Ling's team, and quickly retracts his statement. One of her subordinates holds up a list, realizing Zio Q cleared all their assigned realms. Jiang Ling asks if he did it all by himself, and he simply says yes. Zio Q notes to himself how long she holds a grudge. Not to be outdone, she accepts a high-rank mission that no one else will take. Her team follows her out, leaving Zio Q's squad at the counter. A soldier grins, telling Zio Q he has awakened the captain's competitive spirit. Zio Q looks at the mission details, understanding why he was sent to the front lines. He recalls a critical event from his past life involving the Great Obscenity, when a blonde-haired soldier from Jiang's team looks at him with sudden recognition. He studies the man's face and the sword at his side, and it finally clicks where he has seen him before, back at the Army City N3 Command Center. This soldier reports to the Supreme Commander, connecting Zio Q to a massacre in Das City. He stands at attention, confirming his suspicions. This commander is doubtful, but the soldier insists the sword and appearance match the reports. He theorizes Zio Q escaped prison during the chaos in the city. Despite how unbelievable it seems, he is sure it is the same man. This commander agrees the logic is sound and plans to investigate tomorrow. This soldier smirks, thinking of the reward he will get for catching a criminal. Elsewhere, a team stands before a swirling blue portal in a green field. Jiang Ling's squad begs to accompany her into the dangerous realm. She scoffs, knowing they are only worried because it has already defeated 2 other teams. Jiang Ling leads the way into the new mission area, telling the combined squads to keep up. She warns Zio Q's men not to interfere in their rivalry, and he simply watches her unfazed. This sky above is clear and calm, but a massive portal swirls ahead of them. Zio Q decides to head in first, and the portal vanishes behind him. This rest of the soldiers enter a dark, narrow tunnel as one man uses his ability to scan the area, confirming the air is safe to breathe. His teammates worry about being trapped with strong monsters, staring down the long, ominous corridor. This entire group stands ready, peering into the darkness, when countless red eyes suddenly glow from the shadows. A soldier panics at the sheer number of monsters. But Jiang Ling steps forward, her spear crackling with power. A horde of monstrous crocodiles charges toward them, and she grips her weapon, unleashing her energy. A massive beam of purple lightning erupts from her spear, tearing through the confined space. This entire tunnel is engulfed in violent purple light, leaving only wisps of energy in its wake. A soldier is stunned by her power, so many monsters gone in one hit, but she just scoffs, saying the narrow tunnel made it easy. A scarred soldier dismisses the hunt for kills as meaningless. As the team ventures deeper into a long, dark tunnel, his squadmates note the eerie silence, crediting their captain's power. Suddenly, the entire group halts in their tracks, standing alert in the empty concrete passage. Jiang Ling finds it strange they have not found the 2 lost teams, but her men assume her attack simply vaporized them. She asks if anyone else heard that sound, but her subordinates heard nothing at all. This entire squad tenses, preparing for a fight. A deep rumbling echoes from the darkness ahead, shaking the very ground beneath their feet. A colossal, red-eyed beast erupts from the shadows, its massive body blocking the entire passageway. This soldiers panic, certain they are about to die. But Jiang Ling questions their sudden terror, her gaze cold, her eyes narrowing as she analyzes the new threat. She realizes the monster projects an aura of pure fear. She scoffs at the cheap trick, her spear crackling with energy. Meanwhile, the scarred soldier stands calmly, sword at his side, raising his massive blade with a confident smirk. Jiang Ling unleashes a blast of purple lightning, which tears through the monster's skull. Her focus is absolute, her will unbroken by the beast's power. She looks past the fallen creature at her team waiting down the hall. Xiao Qiu slams his sword into the ground, yanking it free as the earth cracks open. And a massive beast erupts from below, already wounded. Its glowing eye glares with dying fury, but the monster is already dead at his feet. This rest of the squad is stunned by the sudden ambush. Realizing Xiao Qiu just saved all their lives, a soldier asks how he knew it was there, and even Jiang Ling admits she was focused on the other threat. Xiao Qiu calmly explains he felt the vibrations in the ground, but his teammate questions how he could be so precise. Our boy simply says the frequency was easy to distinguish. As the squad marvels at their one-hit kills on two powerful monsters, but Jiang Ling delivers some grim news. These were not the realm's bosses, because the exit portal has not appeared. This men grow tense, wondering what they are truly up against, staring at the massive corpse with a new sense of dread. Jiang Ling warns them to stay close as they move forward, and her men apologize for being a burden. She tells them not to worry, leading the way deeper into the cavern. Her team watches her, their faith in their captain unwavering. They soon arrive at a massive sealed door, knowing the real boss must be waiting behind it. Jiang Ling makes a decision, only she and Xiao Qiu will go inside. Her team calls out, telling her to be safe and that they will wait for her. Together, the two rivals begin turning the massive valve, straining to open the heavy, sealed door. With a grinding groan, the gate begins to open, releasing a massive cloud of dust and steam. They step through the threshold into the darkness, their silhouettes disappearing into the boss's chamber as the heavy door slams shut behind them. Inside, they walk through the vast, silent room, when a heavy, clawed foot slams onto the ground. Jiang Ling notes the footsteps are surprisingly light, as a humanoid reptilian monster emerges from the shadows. She knows that the more human a monster appears, the deadlier it is. This creature stares them down from across the long hall, letting out a roar as it gathers its immense power. Jiang Ling senses the energy, preparing for a tough fight, and she dashes forward in a blur of purple lightning. She leaps high into the air, calling out the monster's arrogance, her spear crackling with concentrated energy, but the beast catches her spear with its bare hand, leaving Jiang Ling completely stunned by its raw strength. This monster holds her at bay, its power overwhelming. As she struggles against the immense pressure, she quickly draws a futuristic sidearm, flipping upside down to fire a blast right at its face. A massive blast of purple lightning erupts, striking a huge reptilian beast head-on. Jiang Ling's spear pierces its hide, leaving its head smoking in defeat. Xiao Qiu watches as she stands over the fallen monster, questioning her risky style, but she says it is necessary for victory. She is surprised when he simply agrees with her, her opinion of him clearly changing. They then discover a grotesque sight, a human soldier fused with a monster's body. She recognizes him as Christian, a high-level professional whose team vanished here. Jiang Ling wonders what kind of curse plagues this realm. Just then, another horde of monsters appears down the hall, led by a snarling, two-headed beast. Both warriors immediately spring into action, as Jiang Ling leaps into the air, gathering energy. She unleashes a storm of purple lightning upon the horde, this blast tearing through the darkness. Her attack chains between the creatures, electrocuting them all, but one monster breaks through the chaos, lunging for her, and she expertly blocks its claws with her spear. She counters with a powerful thrust, tearing the beast in two with a final burst of energy. She notes how strong the transformed soldiers have become, but dismisses them as mindless monsters without intelligence. Jiang Ling glances back, sensing a new threat. As Xiao Qiu carves through the mutated soldiers, dodging and weaving between their attacks, his blade a blur of light and steel, his eyes are cold, completely focused on the fight, unleashing a storm of slashes upon his foe. This floor is littered with the remains of the monsters, and he confirms they were the lost professional teams. But Jiang Ling feels something is still not right, and Xiao Qiu turns to her, sensing her unease. Ahead, two more crocodile beasts stand guard, flanking a series of strange, carved pillars. This monsters snarl, ready for a fight, but then they suddenly kneel down, bowing in worship before the central pillar. A sinister pink energy begins to glow from the totems, pulsing with a strange, overwhelming power. And Jiang Ling is taken aback by the sudden pressure. She clutches her chest, finding it hard to breathe, and decides to stop whatever ritual is happening. She unleashes a blast of purple lightning, striking the two praying monsters. Suddenly, a pair of glowing red eyes appears in the darkness, and a silent command seems to fill the air. This monster is instantly obliterated by a rain of dark energy. He knows the creature, the demon god of the void, and it was focused solely on him, an old acquaintance. Back outside, two portals shimmer in a peaceful field. Xiao Qiu and Jiang Ling emerge, the mission complete, as their men marvel at their speed, asking about the boss. But Jiang Ling cuts them off, needing to report to the commander immediately. This squad is left confused by her sudden urgency. When a voice interrupts, the commander is already here. Everyone turns in shock at his sudden appearance, and the blonde soldier identifies the supreme commander. He approaches, flanked by a heavily armed law enforcement team. A soldier nervously asks why they are here, but the commander assures them it is not their concern. Then turns to Zio Q, saying it is all about him. He calls him by another title, the murderer from DOS City. This entire squad freezes, stunned by the accusation. They cannot believe it, recalling the name from the news. But the blonde soldier insists he is certain it is him. Ling glares at her subordinate, her thoughts hidden. Zio Q simply confirms his name without emotion. This accuser smirks, his suspicions validated. Our boy calmly asks if he is being arrested now. This commander states the law fugitives go to an atonement camp, but he pauses, a slight smile on his face, saying federal law has nothing to do with his army camp. This commander's squad stands confused by his statement. He tells Zio Q he has reviewed his case and understands his choice. He admits he might have been even more ruthless in that situation. This commander praises him, saying the world needs more people like him. A glimpse of Zio Q's monstrous side flashes by. As the commander and Jiang Ling walk off to speak privately, his squadmates wonder what made their captain so anxious. One soldier admits he is too intimidated to approach the guy. Jiang Ling reports to the commander about the monster altar she saw. He grimly identifies the being they worship, a monster god. Jiang Ling is stunned by the revelation. He explains it is all because of something called the source. She demands to know why they have not destroyed this source. This commander reveals the monster god is the source of the realms. He explains these gods are calamities whose auras create the secret realms. She is horrified to learn the realms are just a fraction of their power, but he reveals humanity has killed them before, though only one person can. This altar is a sign that a god is waking, threatening a flood of monsters. A vision shows a tide of monsters poised to overwhelm the front lines. She worries, recalling the sacrifices made when the hero Mask was here. He gives her a new mission, deliver warnings to the other camps. He tells her to use the trip to relax, warning her not to burn out. Jiang Ling starts to protest his order, but he interrupts, telling her to bring Zio Q along. He adds that Zio Q must now cover his face to avoid recognition. A sound echoes across the vast desert, as something tears through the sand at high speed, an armored train built for the front lines. Inside, Jiang Ling sits apart from her men. As a soldier asks a newcomer about their special transport, he boasts that these trains can forge their own paths, but his squadmates are tired of his repeated stories. Another soldier notes they are approaching Camp M2. Questioning why they are delivering a message in person. Suddenly, a sharp sound cuts through the car, and the men scramble to their feet on high alert. A soldier spots a vehicle speeding alongside them. As another mans a heavy-duty turret, one of the men scoffs at the camp's incompetence for letting monsters escape an uncleared realm. Outside, a military jeep flees across the dunes, with an archer taking aim from the back. His arrow finds its mark in a three-headed beast. But a whole pack of them is in hot pursuit. This archer curses the command for their ignorance, then realizes with horror he is out of arrows. He stands defenseless with his empty bow as a monster leaps in for the kill when a single glowing bullet flies past him, obliterating the creature in a fiery blast. A soldier in the desert spots something on the horizon, shouting for help. His squad speeds away in a jeep, identifying an armored train, but a cannon fires from the train. The shell exploding right next to their vehicle. This blast sends the jeep tumbling through the air. Suddenly, a monstrous beak appears in the sky, belonging to a massive winged beast. It swoops down, swiping the jeep mid-flight, but a single shot pierces the monster's skull. This creature and the vehicle crash into the sand. Dazed survivors crawl from the wreckage, realizing they have just been saved. This massive armored train barrels toward them, its side ramp lowering at full speed. Zio Q and Jiang Ling lead their teams out onto the sand. This rescued soldier tries to warn them about the horde, but he stops, completely stunned. They are already tearing through a pack of monstrous wolves. He cannot believe their overwhelming power. Jiang Ling unleashes a storm of purple lightning, while Zio Q is a blur of deadly steel. This soldier realizes it is the two leaders who are truly unstoppable. A beast's head is vaporized by a bolt of raw energy. And in moments the battlefield is silent. This survivors approach, thanking the squad from Army Camp N3. A soldier from another camp seems surprised, explaining they know of Jiang Ling by her powerful reputation, but he has never heard of someone as strong as Zio Q from their camp. Zio Q's teammate nervously tries to explain, before another proudly introduces the new transfer, Zio Q. This other soldiers predict he will soon be just as famous. This scene reveals they were just saved from a monster horde, and the rescued soldier blames failing realm seals for the attack. He confirms to Jiang Ling that monsters are breaking out everywhere, and she wonders if this is a precursor to a massive invasion. She gives the order to head for Army Camp M2 immediately. This massive, fortified camp sits in the middle of the desert. On the wall, two guards stand watch over the wasteland. They discuss the increasing number of secret realms and their heavy workload. Suddenly, one of the lookouts spots something through his binoculars, an armored train approaching from another camp. A flag bearer signals for the train to halt for inspection, but his face twists in sudden terror. A massive object plummets from the sky, crashing into the ground with devastating force. This strange, pillar-like craft is embedded in the earth, as soldiers rush to investigate the impact site. A hatch on the top of the object grinds open, revealing a dark, ominous hole, and a soldier's body is thrown out, landing at their feet. This soldiers recognize the fallen man as a professional when a monstrous leg steps out from the strange craft. From the dark opening, a terrible sound echoes as shadowy winged shapes begin to emerge. A swarm of giant insectoid monsters pours out, overwhelming the unprepared soldiers in an instant. One man opens fire, screaming in defiance. But his bullets barely slow the relentless tide. This swarm descends upon the entire base, turning the camp into a fiery hellscape. A massive insect watches the destruction, its eyes reflecting the flames. Back on the train, they continue speeding through the desert. When a soldier asks Jiang Ling about the possibility of an attack, she dismisses it, confident in their commander's strength, but admits even a top-ranked professional would fall to a sea of monsters. Suddenly, her eyes widen with alarm as she spots smoke rising on the horizon. This entire squad rushes to the window, recognizing Army Camp M2. A frantic distress call crackles over the radio, begging for immediate assistance against the breach. Then a soldier delivers the horrifying news: the camp has fallen. Outside, the walls of the camp are engulfed in flames, rocked by a series of massive explosions. This team stands in stunned silence at the news. As Jiang Ling realizes her worst fear has come true, Jiang Ling gives a firm order: they are not changing course. But a soldier protests, reminding her that Camp M2 has already fallen. She clarifies their mission is not to enter the camp. It is to save the survivors and find out what happened. Nearby, a soldier slams his fist against the wall, cursing the leaders and wishing the hero mask was still around. Another agrees, saying it is like the monsters know he is gone. This entire squad falls into a heavy silence. A bald soldier tries to break the tension, pointing out how Xiao Qiu's mask and build resemble the legendary hero. This others murmur in agreement, joking he might be undercover. He slings an arm around our boy, asking if he is really Mask. Xiao Qiu looks him dead in the eye and simply says, "I am Mask." His squadmates are left completely speechless, until the soldier excitedly asks for an autograph for his brothers. But Jiang Ling cuts in, challenging him to live up to that name. She then turns to look out the train's window, spotting a massive fire raging across the desert. A swarm of giant, insect-like creatures fills the sky, and she wonders if this is what destroyed the camp. A cry for help echoes from the desert below. A small group of survivors is running for their lives. This monstrous insects are closing in fast, when streaks of purple lightning tear through their ranks. Jiang Ling has already leaped into action, her spear crackling with power. A bolt of purple lightning tears through a giant insect, this energy chaining through a massive swarm and erupting in a devastating explosion of light. This charred remains of the creatures rain from the sky, littering the ground with smoldering husks. But in the distance, an even larger swarm gathers. Jiang Ling and her team stand before the survivors of the attack. A soldier thanks her for the rescue as she asks about Army Camp M2. He delivers grim news: the camp has completely fallen. He describes a powerful humanoid insect that killed their commander in seconds. This man begs her not to go, insisting it is a suicide mission. Jiang Ling, her face now hidden behind a mask, remains silent, then suddenly aims her spear at the soldier. Her own men are stunned by her sudden aggression. She reveals her suspicion: they are convicts from the atonement camp. The survivors freeze, their faces filled with shock and fear. This bearded man denies it, pleading that survival is all that matters now. But Jiang Ling points out their amateurish grip on their weapons, noting they were clearly taken from others. She then gestures to a wound on his ear, asking if it is from a bullet. A wound from the soldiers they killed for their gear. Exposed, the two lead convicts charge forward in a desperate attack. Jiang Ling's spear glows with deadly purple energy. And in a single blinding flash, she cuts them both down. This last convict can only stare in terror as she stands over his fallen comrades. One of the mysterious soldiers decides to take the civilians hostage, but he is stunned to see them all suddenly collapse. In a flash, his head is severed from his body, his corpse hitting the dirt next to a familiar spear. Jiang Ling realizes the attackers were not real soldiers at all. She cancels the trip to Camp M2, deeming it too dangerous. Just as a soldier reports the train's engine has failed, but one of the survivors, a young woman, offers to help, and soon the train's engine roars back to life. The soldiers are amazed by her skill, but she humbly deflects the praise. Impressed, Jiang Ling asks for the young mechanic's name, and she proudly introduces herself as Evelyn Clark. With Evelyn's help, the armored train is on the move again. This group gathers around a map to plot a new course. Learning the closest camp, L4, is near the monster invasion's origin. Xiao Qiu insists they go there, as Evelyn confirms they lack the fuel for any other route. With civilians to protect, they have no choice but to take the risk. Later, Xiao Qiu sits alone in quiet contemplation, until Jiang Ling approaches, questioning his insistence on Camp L4. She wonders how he could have known about the fuel shortage, as he recalls a past life where this entire region was lost. She stares at him, waiting for an explanation, and he simply tells her that he is a righteous person. Jiang Ling is taken aback by his cryptic answer, her mind racing to understand his true motives. A flashback shows a giant insect flying over a burning camp. As another is impaled, a human body caught in its legs, and more of the swarm descends upon the ruined walls. A blade flashes, slicing a creature in half, revealing a powerful humanoid insect standing over a fallen soldier. It calmly reads a document amidst the destruction, murmuring about the sun and the moon, its compound eyes reflecting the world around it. It then speaks a single chilling word: humanity. 4 wings erupt from its back, glowing with immense power, as a beam of energy blasts down from the heavens. This was the vision of Camp M2's final moments. Back on the train, the rescued civilians huddle in fear, as a soldier tries to reassure them of their safety. But Xiao watches the distant smoke grow larger, and the survivors' faces fill with a growing dread. One of them points, realizing it is not smoke at all. It is a massive living swarm of monsters heading their way. At the heart of the swarm is a humanoid leader, and the bald soldier rushes to Jiangling, shouting her name. She realizes the camp's killer is out there, doubting her own survival. Its terrifying image is reflected in her eye. And in its eye, her own determined face is reflected back. This creature gives a single, chilling command: exterminate humanity. This swarm descends, ready to overwhelm them all. A monstrous hand crushes one of its own kind, revealing a powerful humanoid insect leader. It declares humanity is its new target, then unleashes a devastating sonic attack, which slams directly into their train. This massive armored vehicle is thrown off its tracks, sending the survivors tumbling in chaos. Evelyn is flung towards an open hatch as the train grinds to a halt on its side, but a hand grabs her just in time. It is Xiao pulling her back from the brink. He sets her down beside Jiangling, this three of them standing before the wrecked train. Together, they brace themselves against the metal hull. Jiangling's eyes narrowed with determination. They dig their feet into the rocky ground, and with a surge of power, they push the train upright. Evelyn stares in shock at their incredible feat of strength. This other survivors can only watch in amazement. Jiangling immediately rallies her troops to defend their position. She orders Evelyn to repair the train for a fast escape. In her mind, the train is more important than the civilians, believing only the strong can ensure humanity's future. She hurls her spear into the approaching insect swarm, unleashing a storm of purple lightning that decimates them. Jiangling carves a path through the insected horde, her lightning spear tearing through their ranks. This rescued soldiers question her power level, admitting even their 7th-rank commander was not this strong. But a powerful winged insectoid watches the chaos, and a survivor recognizes it as the camp's destroyer. Jiangling and Xiao stand ready for the real fight as the ground shatters from an unseen force. She leaps into the air, charging the new threat. A humanoid insect that calmly awaits her attack. Jiangling thrusts her spear with all her might, but the creature blocks it with a single arm. Her eyes widen in complete disbelief as the monster sends her flying with a powerful kick. She is thrown across the battlefield, crashing into the ground with devastating force. Her squadmates can only watch in horror, screaming her name. This insected leader dives in for the final blow, its arm beginning to morph and glow, transforming into a massive, deadly scythe. Trapped in the crater, Jiangling looks up in alarm, gripping her spear with grim determination. She raises her weapon to defend against the strike, and the monster's blade crashes down upon her. Suddenly, the creature unleashes a volley of sharp projectiles. Jiangling and Xiao clash in a high-speed spar, shattering the trees around them with sheer force. She stands over him, calling his name in surprise. But he tells her to handle the stragglers while he takes care of something else. She watches him go, telling him not to dare die, as another monster is sent flying through the woods. A monstrous foot slams into the ground, revealing the humanoid insect leader from the camp. It stands alone in a clearing of its own making. It spots Xiao approaching, identifying him as human. But Xiao questions if it is a monster or if he is a human before dropping his mask and declaring he is neither. Dark energy begins to swirl around his blade, consuming him as he prepares to transform. He taunts the creature, calling it Blood Raven and daring it to unleash its power. A wave of unease washes over the insect monster, and it decides it must strike first. It lunges forward, throwing a desperate punch, connecting squarely with its opponent's face. This impact sends a massive shockwave through the forest, kicking up a huge cloud of dust and debris. As the smoke clears, a shadow emerges, revealing Xiao has caught the punch effortlessly. He looks down at the fist, asking if that is all the power it has. This insect can only stare back in pure terror. Xiao in his monster form faces the insect leader, sending it flying with a devastating blow. He catches its fist, declaring that is enough, and tells the creature it is his turn to attack. This insectoid can only stare in disbelief, its eyes reflecting countless images of its doom. A blast of dark energy tears through its chest. As Xiao stands triumphant in his new form, he pins the fallen demon god to the ground, letting his blade, Blood Raven, absorb its power. A vortex of green energy surrounds the sword. As a sinister red eye opens from within, this blade gains a new ability, Crow Tide, and Xiao notes that his weapon has grown stronger. Back at the train, the battlefield is quiet, and a soldier reports the area is secure with no casualties. But the others worry Xiao sacrificed himself for their sake, leaving Jiangling lost in thought. Suddenly, a soldier shouts in relief. As Xiao emerges from the woods alone, he walks calmly back towards the group, confirming he dealt with the monster. This bald soldier is stunned, asking if he is stronger than a 7th-rank commander. A vision shows the immense power of his final strike. Meanwhile, inside the train, Evelyn tends to the wounded. After the battle, Jiangling and Xiao sit in silence, and she thanks him for what he did back there. But he plays it cool, asking what she means, so she clarifies he saved her life. She notes his power is growing at an impossible rate, just like the Legend of Mask. At that moment, Evelyn rushes in with bad news. This radio equipment is not working, and she suspects their signal is being completely blocked, leaving them totally isolated in the desert. Suddenly, Xiao feels a strange sensation, as a vision of a dark, star-filled sky appears, and a new mission appears before him. A task to exterminate an entire sea of monsters, with the reward being a partial evolution into a demon god. This stakes leave him completely stunned, while the train continues speeding through the wasteland, until suddenly the radio crackles to life. A communication coming from Army Camp L4. Jiang Ling orders them to respond immediately, so Evelyn reports their status and location, and Camp L4 responds, offering them safe harbor. Evelyn confirms they can reach the camp in under 3 hours, giving the weary survivors a glimmer of hope. But another message cuts through the static. A chilling warning not to trust Camp L4. A hand grabs the radio microphone. As a frantic distress call crackles through the static, a soldier is stunned by the news that Army Camp L4 has fallen. This voice on the radio gives coordinates for a survivor camp, begging the armored train to respond. But a silent warning echoes through the carriage. Jiang Ling's soldiers are torn, but she is suspicious. While the civilians argue it is a trap, unsure of what to do, she turns to Xiao Q, who tells them not to go to either place because they are both traps. He recalls his past life, a world on fire where intelligent monsters enslaved humanity. But in his memory, Camp L4 did not fall this soon, meaning his presence has altered the timeline. He wonders if this change is for the better or worse, a grim smile crossing his lips, questioning if it could be worse than the end he has already seen. With only 4 hours of fuel, they have no choice and head towards the temporary campsite. They are met by people claiming to be survivors, a squad of men in matching black uniforms, but these are traitors luring victims for the monsters. And before they can act, Xiao Q slaughters them all. A flashback shows Evelyn weeping, consumed by guilt. A journal entry details humanity's conspiracies and fallen camps, as a silver-haired soldier snaps the book shut. She and Xiao Q discuss the organized monster attack, confirming the creatures have indeed gained intelligence. He recalls a shadowy monster god from his past life, a master of disguise he never truly defeated. This soldier then asks about his powerful knife, and he calls it Flying Raven, a gift from a friend. His eyes harden, having experienced this all before. Just then, she raises her binoculars to the horizon, spotting a massive dust cloud rolling towards them. A horde of thousands of monsters on the move. She reports they are heading straight for Camp A1 when another soldier shouts, pointing to something else. An armored convoy is racing across the desert, unleashing a massive barrage of fire into the swarm. This monster horde is engulfed in a fiery inferno, and she is impressed by their tactical prowess. As their own armored transport speeds onward, this bald soldier cheers, relieved to see allies, but a soldier from the convoy aims his weapon, accusing them of being traitors for surviving the swarm. Just then, a bandaged man tells his soldier to stand down. He says that he recognizes them. At Camp A1, all survivors are quarantined as potential traitors. A blond man in charge greets them with a somber expression, explaining to Jiang Ling that Camp N3 was evacuated and booby-trapped. She realizes the situation is dire if they are abandoning entire cities. He explains the quarantine is necessary due to human traitors, prompting her to ask about the monster's sudden intelligence. He blames the monster gods for the change, and suggests she might hold the answer to it all. Jiang Ling is left wondering why he would think that of her. Inside their cell, Xiao Q studies a military map. She asks what he is looking for, and he mentions a nearby hot spring. On a screen, Federation officials give a speech to the troops, and Jiang Ling notes that at least these leaders are powerful fighters. Just then, guards arrive with new orders from the higher-ups. Their quarantine is over, and they are being sent to the front lines. Their weapons are returned to them for the coming battle. Jiang Ling is stunned they are being deployed without investigation. Xiao Q requests Evelyn be assigned to him, and the guard agrees. They are assigned to lead the Redemption Camp, a last resort unit, and Jiang Ling scoffs at their poor morale and lack of skill. This guard then presents them with a box of communicators, explaining they work without monster interference. Xiao Q is told he has the privilege of choosing his deployment area. This guard begins to suggest the most dangerous perimeter, but trails off, nervously awaiting Xiao Q's decision. A camp official warns Xiao Q of the danger, but Jiang Ling confirms they have chosen this region, leaving the man in stunned disbelief. He reluctantly agrees, offering to get them supplies for the battlefield. Xiao Q reveals his plan to force the camp's criminals into a hopeless fight, but Jiang Ling argues it is too risky. As Xiao Q remains silently confident, his prisoners fear they are being sent to their deaths on the front lines, but Xiao Q tells Evelyn they have to try, handing over a crate of strange devices. He gives her a map with instructions to install them with Jiang Ling. This other prisoners watch with defiant glares, as Xiao Q stands his ground, telling the scumbags he likes the look in their eyes. One of them pulls a gun, enraged by his attitude, and points it right at Xiao Q's head. This prisoner makes a crude demand for the women, and Jiang Ling's eyes flash with fury. Her spear flies past Evelyn, crackling with purple energy, and the prisoner looks up in absolute terror. She asks Xiao Q if she can kill one, and with a single, brutal swing, she does. This other prisoners raise their weapons in response, so Jiang Ling slams her spear into the ground, unleashing a storm of violent purple lightning. A group of prisoners looks on nervously. As Xiao Q lays down the law, follow his orders or die, he stands before them, a commander in the chaos, leaving Jiang Ling and Evelyn completely stunned. Through binoculars, they see the army's defenses get annihilated, soldiers torn apart by monstrous beasts, and powerful monster leaders carving a path of destruction. Evelyn lowers her binoculars, reporting they are completely surrounded. This prisoners panic, accusing Xiao Q of leading them to their deaths, but he tells them fighting is their only chance. He promises to lead them to survival to create a miracle, and the men fall silent, caught between fear and a sliver of hope. He divides them into teams, giving them strict orders and a single lifeline, a walkie-talkie. He begins deploying his new army across the battlefield, tasking Evelyn with setting up miniature nuclear devices as traps. Suddenly, his radio buzzes with an incoming call. It is Group B reporting they have run into the monster horde. They are shown fleeing in terror, begging for an impossible rescue. But Xiao calmly issues precise tactical commands, leaving the squad to wonder how he knows the enemy's every move. Following his orders, they race through the woods, arriving at a riverbank where another group waits. Just as he predicted, a swarm of monsters appears on the opposite shore, and the men realize he is leading them into a calculated trap. With renewed resolve, they unleash a volley of grenades. A massive explosion rocks the battlefield, catching a skeletal monster in the fiery blast and sending it hurtling towards the water's edge. It lets out one final, desperate roar, as Xiao gives the order to detonate the mines. Another series of explosions tears through the land, while he calmly coordinates his teams over the radio. From above, his grand strategy becomes clear, using the terrain to funnel the monsters into kill zones. His prisoners wonder how he predicted their every move, realizing that following his lead is their only hope for survival. On his command, they hurl grenades from the cliffs, engulfing the horde in a storm of fire and shrapnel. Their desperate gamble pays off, and they cheer in triumph. After the battle, the groups return to the mountaintop, where the next phase of Xiao plan begins, using Jiangling's power to trigger bombs in an extinct volcano. A massive torrent of water erupts from the earth, creating a devastating avalanche that sweeps the monsters away. This horde is trapped in the flood, their path completely cut off. Back at headquarters, the generals are stunned by the news, but they give all the credit to a high-ranking official's confidant. This official arrives by plane to claim the victory for himself, and instead of freedom, the prisoners are sent back to their cells. They riot after learning their heroic efforts were stolen. At the commander-in-chief's residence in Camp A1, a high-ranking officer asks about the recent prison unrest, and a congressman questions why they are toying with the prisoners' lives. This officer scoffs, claiming the criminals started the violence and got what they deserved. He adds that he will have the 3 survivors from other camps watch closely, and the congressman quickly backs down, promising it will not happen again. This officer then asks about a shipment of special weapons that arrived, and the congressman reveals with a sinister smile they are already at the front lines. On the battlefield, soldiers brace themselves behind sandbags as a horde of grotesque monsters charges towards them. This men sweat nervously, facing an overwhelming force. When they are suddenly ordered to retreat for support troops from Star City, a giant foot lands on their defenses, telling them to scram. As a scientist gives a hulking, bioengineered soldier the order to attack, an entire squad of these enhanced warriors prepares to move out, each one activating an injection of combat stimulants. Vials of red fluid pump the drug into their bodies, causing their hearts to pulse with unnatural energy. This visors on their helmets glow with a menacing red light. And wielding massive swords, they charge into the fray. These super soldiers leap directly towards the sea of monsters, while the scientists remark that their madness is what makes them special. This retreating soldiers stare in disbelief, questioning who the real monsters are. One of the enhanced fighters swings his massive blade, as a regular soldier grabs a scientist, screaming that this is a suicide mission. A scientist explains this is not a suicide mission. It is the only way to unleash their true, restricted power. This soldier beside him is left speechless, as a new bioengineered warrior faces a horde of monsters. This creature senses a familiar aura from him, but he promises his power is on another level entirely. Another enhanced soldier roars, demanding a second injection, clenching his fist with raw power, feeling the energy surge through his veins, ready to unleash absolute destruction. Vials of a red serum pump into his system, and he crushes a monster's skull in his bare hand, shattering it in a brutal display of force. He moves like a blur, trailing streaks of red energy, and carves through the beast with ease. An entire squad of these super soldiers tears through the swarm, leaving a trail of dismembered monsters in their wake. This soldier from before is stunned. They actually did it. This scientist smirks, boasting that his modifications can make anyone powerful. This battlefield is littered with the heads of the fallen. As the enhanced soldiers march through the carnage, they bring back the head of a massive beast, and the scientist declares it a valuable specimen to be retained. This lead soldier demands to be sent back to the fight, but the scientist stops him, insisting on a checkup first. A scientist on the battlefield notices something strange, and his face contorts in pure shock, as a colossal shadow looms over his entire squad. It is a giant monster with glowing red eyes, and he realizes it is an amalgam of dead creatures. But a masked soldier vows to kill it anyway, launching himself forward with incredible speed. He leaps high into the air towards the beast, bringing his blade down in a furious arc, but he seems surprised by the result. He lands on the monster's massive arm as the scientist realizes it is a 9th-rank threat. This soldier refuses to stop injecting his enhancers, determined to survive and kill them all. He slams a dose directly into his arm, and the vials on his back begin to bubble furiously. He lets out a scream of agony as his body begins to rip and transform. His mask shatters, revealing a monstrous new form. This scientist can only watch in horror as the transformed soldier raises a clawed hand. This other men are stunned by his transformation, while the giant monster's hand clenches, its bandaged fingers tightening into a fist. and the transformed soldier stands atop it, ready for a fight. A monstrous creature stares in disbelief, held captive by a colossal shadow beast. A giant hand of pure darkness reaches out, closing into an inescapable fist. This trapped monster begs for its life, but is crushed in a brutal display of power. A terrified scientist watches the carnage unfold. This shadowy creature relishes the hunt, looming over the last bastion of humanity. Back at headquarters, an officer gets a dire report. Multiple ninth-rank monsters are on the move. He curses, rushing to see for himself, and looks out from his balcony in horror. Giant shadows march across the desert towards the city. He realizes a monster god is behind this, and a man in a suit confirms his fears, blaming the hero mask for the entire crisis. He asks for a count of their high-level fighters as the officer nervously details their forces, but the man in the suit has a different plan in mind. A plan to use nuclear weapons on their own city. He dismisses the officer's concerns about casualties, and the officer reluctantly accepts the grim logic. He agrees to make the necessary arrangements. On the ground, soldiers scramble to the city walls. Jiang Ling and Xiao Q arrive at the wall as a horde of giant shadow beasts marches forward, and a masked man recognizes their aura, this aura of the monster god of wisdom. One of the shadow monsters lets out a roar, while a dragon-like beast leaps to attack it, sinking its teeth into the shadow creature's arm. This shadow monster is brutally torn apart, and the soldiers watch as something is launched high into the air, crashing directly into the city's defenses. More dark projectiles follow close behind, bombarding the wall with devastating force. This giant shadow monster's eyes glow ominously, watching the chaos it has created, and it slams its fists into the ground. As a blonde swordsman stands ready in the dust, a single red eye glares through the haze. As the colossal beast looms over the lone fighter, it smashes down with incredible power, but its body breaks apart into smaller creatures, unleashing a swarm of different monster types. A monstrous wolf lunges forward with a roar, but Jiang Ling impales it with her lightning spear. Fighting back to back, she asks for a plan, but he says it is already too late for that. A masked woman faces a monstrous lion and erupts with violent purple lightning, channeling the raw energy into her spear. She dashes across the battlefield, standing alone against a sea of monsters below. She reveals her mask suppresses her own deadly power, still questioning why someone let her mother die, and decides it is time to get answers from the underworld. With crackling energy, she steps to the edge and leaps down into the horde. Her spear slams into the ground with immense force, unleashing a wave of destructive energy, carving a path through the swarm as a giant looms ahead. She soars towards the massive beast, ready to strike, but it meets her attack with a devastating punch. She is sent flying back, overwhelmed by the impact, crashing towards the ground below when a masked man suddenly catches her in midair. He lands safely with her inside a deep crater. He tells her she has done enough as she lies exhausted. His eyes are cold and determined. He explains she is not yet ready for an 8th-rank monster. Then he corrects her, his form dissolving into shadow, as a dark, ominous power begins to swirl, and a new, terrifying aura surrounds him completely. A monstrous foot slams into the ground, revealing a warrior clad in demonic armor. Evelyn looks up in shock, recognizing Xiao Q. A giant shadow monster reaches for him as a stray energy blast hits the ground nearby. This transformed Xiao Q flies towards the beast's hand, dodging a volley of hurled rocks with ease. This colossal monster glares down with malice, but a red beam of energy strikes its shoulder. A glowing wound appears on its chest, and Xiao Q's blade slices through its arm. This creature's head explodes in a shower of red, as Xiao Q absorbs its life force into his hand. The soldiers are stunned by the monster's swift defeat. An official confirms the warrior is the transformed human from DOS City, and the congressman sees a new test subject to capture for his research. A radio call announces the nuclear launch is underway. 35 warheads are now inbound. This soldiers realize they are bait with nowhere to run. This congressman cleans his glasses, saying their sacrifice will not be in vain. He smirks, promising humanity will remember them. As the missiles rain down, a sword is raised against them, and a single, powerful slash cuts through the sky. This congressman's glasses shatter in his grip, as he questions how a demon god could appear on Earth. A narration explains the cosmic net between worlds, allowing lesser monsters to slip through to Earth, but the demon god is something else entirely. This threat created a rift in the Federation, with the hero mask losing support for his warlike stance. Back in the present, humanity launches its ultimate weapon, but a colossal demonic eye appears in the sky. As nuclear missiles streak towards their target, suddenly dark portals swallow the warheads whole, redirecting them back towards the human forces below. This congressman realizes the nukes were teleported away, and the officer is paralyzed by the demon god's power. This congressman announces he is leaving to report back, but the officer knows he is just trying to run away. This politician walks off, abandoning the front line. Elsewhere, a familiar hand grips a spear tightly, and Jiang Ling looks up, stunned by a new threat. Soldiers around her fall back in utter terror. As a horde of shadowy beasts charges forward, their massive, spiky forms blot out the sky. But a masked warrior leaps into the fray, slicing through a monster with a flash of red energy. He lands in the palm of a colossal shadow beast, which unleashes a powerful beam from its eye. This attack slams into the ground with explosive force. Xiao Q lies in the crater, surrounded by dark energy, his demonic mask glowing with an inner light. Suddenly, a massive eye tears open the sky, and Xiao Q's armor begins to crack and shift, as his mask shatters, revealing his true face. This colossal eye of the monster god stares down, its gaze fixed solely on him. Jiang Ling realizes the god is looking at Zio Q, wondering why it would notice a single human unless that human was the legendary hero Mask. This cosmic eye continues its silent watch, but Zio Q meets its gaze without fear, and in that moment the eye seems to flinch. As Jiang Ling realizes the monster god is afraid, this eye begins to distort and waver, swirling into itself as it starts to retreat, then vanishes from the sky completely. On the ground, the giant shadow beasts turn away, their forms crumbling into dust and rock. This entire monster horde begins to flee in terror. A soldier stares at the empty battlefield in disbelief, as his comrade shouts that they have actually retreated. All along the wall, soldiers erupt in cheers of survival. A narration explains that the monster god always feared him, and only attacked after he discarded his identity as Mask. Zio Q reflects on the monster god's fear, realizing his own power is now overwhelming. As a system notification confirms his new path, a partial transformation into a monster god, but this new strength comes with a terrible price, a horrifying urge to destroy and consume everything. Jiang Ling tries to defend him to the officer. But the congressman from before steps in, accusing Zio Q of orchestrating the entire invasion. She argues that he fought for humanity, but the officer silences her with a threat, accusing them both of conspiring with demons. His soldiers move to surround the pair, but Zio Q remains completely unfazed, effortlessly dispatching two distant creatures with a flick of his wrist. This officer declares he has shown his true colors, yet he is stunned by Zio Q's remaining strength, when suddenly the congressman appears behind him, trapping him in a strange green energy. A blade flashes through the air, and the congressman is impaled from behind. His blood splattering across the ground, he collapses, a sword run clean through his chest, while Zio Q looks on with cold indifference. Leaving the officer frozen in absolute terror, a commander orders his men to fall back, but he is confronted by a monstrous figure. Terrified, he calls the warrior a traitor. This warrior's mask partially retracts, revealing Zio Q, who promises to do what a monster should do, and the commander is instantly obliterated. A soldier watches the aftermath in shock. As a man in a suit slams his fist on the ground, he reveals he is blind but knew the warrior's identity all along, shouting that Mask has finally returned. He kneels, offering Mask control of the armies and the Congress, but Mask just stares down at him silently. This blind man suddenly senses danger, as a dark aura explodes from Mask's body, and a beam of energy slams into the ground before him. Meanwhile, a politician announces a great victory to a massive crowd, boasting of the millions of demons they have destroyed. He then pivots to the traitors who sabotage their efforts, displaying images of Zio Q in both human and monster form. This crowd panics, fearing monsters are hiding in their midst. A powerful voice suddenly shouts for silence. It is the blind man, now on stage, addressing the nation. He vows that the Federation will hunt down every traitor, and the crowd erupts in a chant for justice. A reporter notices something happening, telling her cameraman to record. A news crew looks on in shock, their camera zooming in on a lone man. It is Zio Q standing on a rooftop. This crowd below panics, calling him a monster. As soldiers charge forward demanding his death, one leaps through the air, sword ready to strike. But Zio Q remains completely unfazed. He deflects the blow with a single, effortless swing. As the rest of the squad closes into attack, they are all sent flying by his immense power, and the survivors realize backup is their only hope. A dark aura surrounds Zio Q amidst the fallen, and he walks past the defeated soldiers without a glance. He looks down upon the terrified civilians below, when a blond man in the crowd recognizes him, remembering they once fought on the same side, but he wonders if Zio Q even remembers him. Feeling utterly insignificant compared to the hero Mask, he recalls how the people used to adore him, and a twisted smile spreads across his face, seeing a chance to finally defeat his rival. He reaches into his jacket, ready to become something more, and steps forward to confront Zio Q directly. He grits his teeth, his mind racing, planting his feet firmly on the ground. He grips a strange device, his time running out, remembering when he and Zio Q fought together. But now Zio Q stands before the world. While his former comrade kneels on the ground, defeated before he even made a move, he reveals his identity to the entire world. I am Mask. This crowd erupts in disbelief, unable to accept the truth. As his face is broadcast across the entire city, he tells them he has not returned as a hero, claiming humanity only needs him to survive. His gaze is cold, his message clear. This people are confused by his sudden arrogance. But he explains their fear of his power is what led to his exile. He looks down on Hirao, calling out their pride. He announces his intent to drain their resources for his own power and declares that from this day forward, the world is his. Watching the broadcast, Jiang Ling finally understands everything, and a single tear streams down her face. But in the crowd, a new chant begins to rise, as everyone kneels in worship, hailing their new ruler.